Okay, good morning, colleagues. I think we're ready to start for today. Yes, we are not many in the room today, physically here, but nice to know that there are a number of colleagues joining us online, both on the Zoom platform, but also on the YouTube platform. So I think it's the weather that maybe kept them in-house today. But the nice thing about it is that technology allows us to do that. I just want us then to, before we start, colleagues, just to quickly go through the program for today. We have a half day. So, and I know that some colleagues also have commitments past 1 o'clock this afternoon, apart from having lunch, which is a huge commitment. However, so I want us to just keep to the time slots. So, Kulsum, if you can go to the next slide for us, please. So today's program, I have asked Makwena just to recap yesterday, because I think a lot of important issues were raised yesterday in the discussions, in the presentations, and in the discussions. And I feel that we shouldn't lose those points. Obviously, we will have a conference report, so those points, and it will be shared with everybody that is here, and it will be part. Given the fact that it is a knowledge management conference, it will be part of the knowledge that will be archived in the school, and I'm sure will be used multiple times. So for today, we will have, as I already indicated, we will have the welcome and recap. And then we will have the Knowledge Management Policy Framework and Maturity by Ms. Zibani. Fortunately, all our speakers are here already. And then we will have professionalizing knowledge management, Mr. Chauke. He will also present for us the next area around knowledge management system through the ISO 30401 framework, Mr. Chauke, and then we will have a tea break. So those would be the presentations for today. Post the tea break, colleagues, the nice thing is that we will then, as a group, online as well as us here physically, will engage with a number of questions that we would like the House to discuss. And hopefully it will give us continue to enrich the discourse around knowledge management, not just for the sector in terms of the public sector, but also in terms of the knowledge management in the country at large. I have to admit, when I was preparing for today, I had to think about what is the role that knowledge management plays in my life. So maybe just to say that in the school, I have the responsibility to do curriculum design and development. And one of the things that just struck me is that I would not be able to do my work if someone somewhere in the world did not take the effort to create knowledge and to upload this knowledge somewhere in a folder or in a space or on a platform that I could access. And so our entire life, and especially my entire professional life, is managed, controlled, navigated by the use of knowledge. And so it is absolutely important. I was also driving in here. I'm sure we all listen to our radios. And I was just listening to the submission of the Zondo Commission report. And they were just talking about the volume of knowledge that was created there. And I was just wondering, I wonder how are they going to archive that knowledge? Because not all the 1,000 and something individuals that were mentioned in the report may be, something may not happen to them today, but maybe 10 years from now, one of our children or our grandchildren will wake up and say, let me go check what happened in the Zondo Commission. And maybe we could trace back what is in our history and why is it that we are sitting with this particular problem in our country today. It may be a pilot, or whatever position your child or my child or your grandchildren, our children, grandchildren will occupy And so it is important to manage that knowledge. And it just struck me how important knowledge management is without us even, knowing about it. So without further ado, Makwena, I'm going to ask you to keep it. I'm giving you about 20 minutes, even 5 minutes to recap what happened yesterday. Kulsum, if you can then just switch the presentation. Thank you. Want this? I need to sanitize it. We can't throw all the protocols out. we did. Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Makwena.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you again today. We just noted that there is an accident in R21. Most of our colleagues have called to indicate that they are but further than that, we proceed. Thanks. Because I'm short now, this laptop will make my life difficult. Very difficult, but that's fine. I'll try by all means. You can hear my voice. You don't need to see me. See, okay, that's fine. Okay, okay, I'm fine now. This is a reflection of what happened yesterday. I've tried by all means to keep it short and only 2 pages. What happened yesterday, colleagues, is that the principal has opened a conference and which entities conditions of collaboration and partnership between NSG and stakeholders. Because as NSG, our responsibility is to make sure that we train all the public sector people. The public sector in that case means all 3 spheres of government. So partnership and collaboration was very important. But through an anecdote, this one has taken us through the importance of knowledge management. But also what comes forth was the importance that put forth in terms of defining knowledge management. Well, he defined it very correctly as a system, because normally we make a mistake, colleagues, of defining knowledge management as if it belongs to a person or a branch. No, it's a system in itself because it cuts across the organization. I think Denise captured it well when he said if there was no person like say knowledge somewhere, shouldn't be able to do a work. But also we had Dr. Candice Spain, who delivered a profound message on knowledge management support, knowledge management South Africa's message support. But of importance, colleagues, as practitioners, because I'm also the member of KMSA, I still advocate that colleagues join the knowledge management support, because the more we are together, then we will ensure that we push the strike of making sure that knowledge management become a recognized valuable tool or valuable system of law. We had Ms. Browning Catherine, who presented the World Economic Information Database. On this one, colleagues, I'm going to advocate for it. What happened is knowledge management have signed an MOU or an agreement with World Economic Forum. They have agreed to give us their database. We asked colleagues, if you want that database, you have just drop me an email and we will send to, because that database is so useful. It will assist your research units, it will assist your policy units, because it has all the information. It's for free. If you are a person who normally goes to Marabastat, they will pass a shop that this person will say, so we are able to assist you to get that one. We had a very interesting presentation from Professor Daisy Silimatzela colleagues who addressed the issues of KM advancing the achievement of NDP. But of importance, she gave us a task to read what she termed KM cure parties pillars. So if colleagues can go to those and learn more about that. But of importance, she also advocated for open access and citizen science research. We had Dr. Malachi, who gave us a clear account of the innovation that NSG took during COVID-19. But better than that, she highlighted also the challenges that we experience as the NSG in terms of being hit by cyber attacks and ransomware. The further colleagues had Ms. Clark from City of Johannesburg, who took us through the journey of the city during COVID-19 situations. But he further indicated and gave us a clear indication of the tools and platforms that City of Johannesburg is using to advance knowledge management. And he further highlighted that they have global insight that we may also use in terms of accessing their services. We had also Mr. van der Waal, who shared a touching story of how knowledge became a tool that advanced the EPWP work, and how then the EPWP work has advanced the education of knowledge. We had Ms. Carol Paponia, who also set the journey of City of Tshwane in responding to the implementation of lesson learned in various projects. And the take home on her presentation, colleagues, was how important it is to then plan properly when you do documentation of lesson learned. Because she addressed the issue of overwhelming information and knowledge that is brought on the impact on the class. We had Joanne from GCIS, who clarified the role of GCIS in supporting government and various pillars, including communications. We had Mr. Gamile Sibanda, who shared the insight in understanding how the world changes and the importance of understanding the organizational need for deploying a KM software. Mr. Sibanda's emphasis was not on the systems, I said, but it was on how you understand your organizational process, roles and responsibilities, because that then will assure you that the system that you're looking for will then respond to the head of the founder, who then look into the issues of colonization and decolonization in terms of actually decolonization in terms of knowledge management and how it's important. She took us through the journey, colleagues, of looking into various institutions and in her view, indicating that we are still being influenced mostly by the Western countries. So we need to change the way we think. And last point, there's a need because we are going to drive the problem today to note that yesterday we did various questions from section 2 and from section 1 and section 2 that when we come to the question issues, then we must address them. There will be questions and there will be questions that we need to then tackle and discuss them. But it is noted, colleagues, that all the questions that were asked yesterday were captured. We used, I think, one question that was, one suggestion that was of importance. It was from my former boss, Mr. P, that we need to come up with some sort of a team that will address some of the issues that we face. And my take on that is that Colin is here, I think John is here, and we need to facilitate that via KMSA. We need to make sure that we take your correspondence and we look into those. But all the questions and concerns that we raised yesterday, colleagues are captured it is indeed important to me that if you don't really call it a report, because you write up in management, and you must play the terms, right? So write up and it will be shared with colleagues. Thank you so much, colleagues. That was what transpired yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Macrina, for that. Are there any questions or comments or contributions that anybody would like to make? Their own observations about yesterday? Anything that you wanted to add? Anything that's sitting on your heart that you think that maybe Macrina did not touch, or anything that was an aha moment for you of the presentations of yesterday? Anybody?
Good morning once again, colleagues. Yesterday there was an interesting comment from one gentleman. Yeah, I think he's the gentleman from the Western Cape. He actually said something to the effect that as knowledge management practitioners, we should actually stick to our lane and not get into other lanes. And, I actually reflected on it yesterday to say, if you look at advances in the world, it's mainly by people who are disrupting, the normal way of doing things. And I was actually thinking that maybe this thing of saying, we should actually keep to what we are doing and not stray into the ICT space and the other spaces, etc. I don't think that will take, the knowledge practitioner, the knowledge management practitioners far. So maybe, as this team, as we engage, let's challenge that kind of thinking, because if we say this is our lane, we'll conform to it, we may find ourselves not getting far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was very intrigued by Dr. Selamatsela, who she said, call me Daisy. Her presentation about open science and the fact that we really need to have a very open sharing culture if we are to learn from these research projects. And I think in government, I'm often struck by the fact that even working in government, there are many people who don't understand how systems work in government. And that for us to improve ourselves as professional public servants, we really need to engage with colleagues through professional associations, but we also need to really brush up our knowledge of how our government works. Whenever there is a meeting and people present on how their departments are dealing with specific issues, it's so interesting that we think we know how a department works, but we really need to exchange learnings on basic processes and basic functions, because it strengthens our abilities to do our own planning.
Any other comments? Any other comments from colleagues? Any other burning issue that you want to raise? Okay, colleagues, so let's carry on. I absolutely agree with you that we have to challenge the notion of staying in our lane. One of the issues that we're struggling with in government is about how do we go beyond the silos. And so it is important for us to break through that. If you want to understand how the system works, then you can't be in your lane. You actually have to step out. One of the courses that we have at the school is, for example, a course called Evidence-Based
policy making and program implementation. Now, if the knowledge managers stay in their lane, I won't be able to access information when I need to develop a policy for government or when I have to develop programs. And one of the challenges that we have that sometimes our programs are maybe lacking the quality of evidence that we require to develop and implement the best possible programs that we can. So it is absolutely important that we are beginning to create synergy amongst ourselves and how we work with one another. On that score, could I kindly ask the next speaker, Ms. Sizani, to present her, to come and make her presentation? Are you going to use the podium? Or you want to use the mic like this rather? What would you prefer? It's better for them. Okay, cool. Thank you. Can we give Ms. Sizani a nice applause? We can also see the hands online for those, please. Kusum, just kindly assist, please. Morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. From protocol observed. My name is Seven Bizani. I am employed by the Department of Public Sector Administration. I'm responsible for relation management and innovation. I'm laughing at myself because I'm challenged by the technology that I'm trying to use, and I'm remembering what I was saying yesterday. We're getting there, we're really getting there. Today I've been asked to talk to the KM framework and the national plan. In the background, I just want to share that the KM framework was developed in 2011. It was through a consultant known as Dr. Mbananga, she's late, appointed by the GTEC, assisting DPSA in the National Treasury. And today, as I was entering this place, I remember that in 2011, this is where first draft was consulted. It was here, just down the hall, the next room. It was here where the KM practitioners all over the country came together and reflected on the document that was shared. We had a huge debate, we had breakaways, we were here for 2 days, and at the end, we appreciated the work that was provided. However, there was a consensus that it is a bit highly academic. We needed a practical document since KM was new in the public service, and the function, the responsibility and the function mostly resided with people who were not academically competent in the field. So we had to look at coming up with a refined document. That initial document is still there, very valuable, has a lot of case studies, there's a lot of reference, and we still want to use it even as we refine the initial document because it is still relevant. And as we were here, we then had a few team members who had to sit refining. Some of them belong to the center of government, others were voluntary. At voluntary basis, they came and we said and we refined the document over years. Just that if the document was only approved in 2019, yesterday there was a question about aligning the framework with the NDP. Yes, the NDP came out first, but we tried to align some of the areas with the NDP. If you look at the framework is there in the DPSA with the site. It was approved in 2019 by the DPSA DG at the time. But to kickstart my presentation, I just want to share two different episodes. We have a knowledge manager that we know of that is known as Remark. Remark was the first people who started the KM practitioners community of practice. She used to teach in the UJ. She wrote a book of the art of managing knowledge. I think I'm referring to it correctly. She shares a story in that book. I'm just going to keep the company my name. My company, my 70 is chicken. She shares a story about the company that sells chicken who had a problem about the packaging of the chicken. You know that when you buy chicken, there's a special package. Those brown bag packages that you get. Okay, one of the companies I'm not promoting that has the brown bag package is Nando's. So over the time, this company discovered that it had a problem. As the chicken is grilled hot and is given to the client, by the time they arrived at the car, the chicken is fallen on the ground. The company tried, source, consultant. The company spent almost 3.5 million trying to figure out the challenge, but it got the challenge. And one of the company members said one day, there was this gentleman, because they went out to the supplier, we are really running at a loss and this and that. And then somebody remembered there was an old guy who used to stay, I'm going to make an example in Karahua, and who was the one who was key in the making of the package. We need to go find this guy because we really do not know what's going on. They went, the company bosses, to that place, not even paying 200 rand for petrol, arrived at the gentleman, we are here, we have this problem. What is it? He hears, he listens to them, and he asked two questions. He asked about the type of the paper and the glue that they use. And he shared with them over time what was happening. He started telling stories. And remember, the last speaker said they called for storytelling. And storytelling is part of KM leadership. It's shared because that knowledge that the gentleman had was not new. It was accumulated over time, over experience. He shared with them the task, why was it not compatible. He explained to them because the machine. Now remember, everything is automated, and he said, go try and do this proportion. Went to the machine, they took it there. He said, I don't know the machine, but the amount that we equate to this and the end of the challenge. It did not cost them millions. The solution, but they spent about time. And which is what happened to us in our department. We pay a lot of money trying to figure out solutions that lies within our organization. We pay a lot of money because we don't know where the document is. Doctor was just sharing just now with appreciating the knowledge that she found at NSG. I remember that yesterday shared a scenario about his writing and all that. The knowledge that resides in the human resources applied by government, the knowledge that we have on reports and all these documents that we produce is key. Is very key. One last scenario I want to add, because I don't want to go into examples when I go there. There is a state that I've been watching in the country. We have a social cluster. And the social cluster works together from the birth of a child to going to ECD, to school, to varsity, to SASA, contribution to all the social well-being. But as a country, we have not resolved the issue of matrix ID before the election. Many times when you go to Home Affairs,
what is it that you observe before the people register for exams? What you observe there is that children are there with parents. Children are there with parents wearing school uniform, taking time off school, which is very essential. Parents taking time off school and parents taking time off work just to apply for an ID. But in our country, we have an unabridged birth certificate that have full details of parents of a child. Our children are using smartphones, and our smartphones are using biometrics to unlock and identify. And in Home Affairs, our biometrics are there. When you look at the data that is collected from birth, it's enough to give us a solution to the problems in terms of the processes that we have in government to process certain areas that we should process. But are we really using the intelligence collected to make informed decisions? The data that we collected, what we deduce out of it? And from what we deduce, do we utilize that knowledge to improve the service delivery? Because that is service delivery to the people and to the students. If we can look at all those areas, that knowledge that we have can assist us to improve the work that we do. There was a question around the GCIS portal and the applications. How about we use what is available to us? The smartphones is right. All our children have smartphones. They cry for them to give them. I mean, teachers carry smartphones. These applications can be done at school. These applications can be done at home. If we can be able to apply for an ID at the bank, why not use an app in a smartphone to allow those children to apply for ID at the place where they are? We need to ponder on such things. And the picture, I'm not going to talk about that picture, I think also narrates to the story I shared at first about the Benzido chicken. The following one is the definition of knowledge management. In the framework, it is also defined as system. It is a practice. Managing knowledge is a practice. It's not a once-off thing. You manage knowledge. You capture, you store, you share, you disseminate, you reuse knowledge, and that is done so that we can learn from the past and apply that knowledge that we have strategically to the future, to what we need to do. The application and the learning is very important for the improvement of the quality of humanitarian that we serve in the development in the work area. We are a developmental country. We are learning. We can't develop without learning. And as we learn, we accumulate knowledge. In public service, human resources are generated. There are research people. There are those who use the research that is available. And all of this is there and available for us to enable us to alleviate poverty and to develop the capacity within that we have. We develop capacity through sharing and learning. Learning and sharing what we've learned throughout. So the process and the activities that are involved are collection, collating, sharing, packaging, dissemination, and use. And it is key that we must make sure that for us to be able to deliver services, for us to be able to have those evidence-based decisions, those people who are decision makers need to have the right information given to them. Who are the people that need this knowledge? And at the right time, we can't provide information on floods after the floods that we say they were going to be floods, there was going to be a cyclone, but we knew. If we know that there's going to be a cyclone from Mozambique, definitely I come from KZN. Those areas will be affected. Richards Bay, where I come from, Durban, and the pressure throughout. So, you know, people need to be moved to upper areas. And there have been floods in KZN. When I was doing a certain grade in 1980, there were floods. There were floods, I remember there were bad floods. In 1984, when I was doing a certain grade in September 24, there were floods that in the Richards Bay areas, bridges collapsed. The same incident that happened around Durban and Ubu. In 2016, Ubu district faced a similar flood with mudslide. What were the lessons? What was learned to prepare for 2022 April floods? Disaster management. There was a disaster management team and disaster management documents. When I was still working at Service Delivery Improvement, we looked at them in terms of disaster management. Were those utilized in the Easter flood in KZN? Was this right information given to the right municipalities? And was it available to assist at the time and the place where it's needed? Organizations are seeking to acquire and create potentially useful knowledge to make it available to those who can use the time. And we knowledge is time bound. It does this really, and it does pose a set of impediment to organization if its flow is, which means that the knowledge flow is key. We need to come to terms with understanding that knowledge is not power, but it is empowerment. It empowers those who receive it to be able to take the right decisions, to be able to direct the goals and the objectives of the organization in the right way. I'm not going to talk to the ISO 30401, but I'm suffice to say that we take it to present what the ISO 30401 is saying. Mr. Chop is going to talk to that, so I need not. But this is one of the diagrams that we share about data, records management, information management. Records management is a building. We have records like those which KM can call knowledge that we have throughout the community. You know, when people are working project-based, Western Cape, they are a project-based department. You know that there is a project review, and for them to be able to move to a next project, we need to reflect on the lessons learned of the other project, and those documents are kept in our department as records. So it's data, I think I've spoken to data. But all of this, when it's put into context, it gives us information. And when we add to this information, it allows us to take action and to produce and to use it purposefully to the areas of our work. Now, KM in the public service. The mandate of the Department of Public Service and Administration is minister mandate to establish norms and standards for effective administration of government to improve service delivery in relation to information management, as well as transformation, reforms, and innovation, and any other matters to improve the effective administration of public service in service delivery in the public service. So, as the DSA, what we're responsible for is develop norms and standards, and this guide is a framework. The framework is a guide. It's not thou shalt, it's a guide. And this year we are developing a directive that will be issued hopefully next year. And we are looking at standardizing the knowledge management in the public service. The guide sets out things that you ought to have in place for you to implement knowledge management. When we come next year, we'll be saying you need to have this and this and this and that's in place for you to be saying you are implementing knowledge management. However, the social-political realities of our country are the reflection to us on how knowledge is managed in the public service. We see service delivery protests everywhere. Even in times of COVID, during the lockdown, we had service delivery protests. And this is what we see on TV. And some of the researchers have done a study, and the study concurs that the poor management of knowledge contributes to. People are informed. People are informed, and they use the knowledge that they have against us. And we are not utilizing the data that is available to inform us on what we need to do for our community. When you look at KM in context, at an organizational level, we have individual knowledge, branch knowledge, or unit knowledge, and organizational knowledge. And all this knowledge is key. And it's very important for us as government to identify the critical knowledge in our organization. And also to be able to define knowledge management in line with the mandate of the organization. If you realize in the document, it's a generic knowledge management definition, and there are many knowledge management definitions. But for you to be able to manage the knowledge, the critical knowledge organization properly, you need to be able to define knowledge management in line with the mandate of your organization. So that when you develop that strategy, that policy for organization should support the organizational mandate. It should not be parallel to what it's been done. But as a strategic function, it's supposed to support the organization objective and function. And in that diagram, in brief, we are saying the KM outputs influence the planning, the strategy of the organization. And in the planning, the KM principles are adopted in the organization to be able to assist the organization to derive value in what they're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve. And the initiatives, when they're employed at a human resource level, at the company, being embedded in the processes, while you leverage on ICT, they enable us to learn and to have those outputs that are influencing the decision making in our organization. When we talk to the pillar that talks to incentives, we're not just talking about monetary incentive in government. We are talking about allocating time and resources for informal knowledge, for learning, for sharing. Because we know that in knowledge trainings and others are allocated for budget for an organization. But we hardly ever have opportunities where we come together to learn and share and be able to make sure that there's knowledge flow and exchange in our organization. These are the pillars that have been adopted in our framework, culture, which puts emphasis on leadership in ensuring the conducive culture that allows for knowledge exchange and flow. People are backbones of knowledge management in our organization. There's content. There is a lot of documentation in our organization that we need to make sure that it's available, and the taxonomies needs to be done in the organization. All this documentation needs to be accessible, needs to be available for all to be able to access and use and reuse to influence decision, to be able to do whatever we ought to be doing. Processes, there are processes that are there in the organization. KM processes should influence those processes so that we are able to manage knowledge. In the framework, these are the steps that are key in managing knowledge in an organization. I want to share, because the KM practitioners, that even though you see that here, step 4 is KM implementation plan, just pause in that. The plan, the implementation that we are looking at right now is not talking to that step that is there. However, it's there to assist us to be able to put guides and toolkits in place to assist government to be able to implement knowledge management. Where do we start? We need to be able to access what the people in the organization know and what they need to know. We can never be able to do anything without understanding what it is that we know to know. For you to plan, you need to be able to say, what do I have for me to do that thing that I want to do? If you want to deliver houses, you need to understand if the infrastructure is in place. There's road, there's water. You can't just go build houses where there is no infrastructure for water and for electricity, and then you come back to people and say, oh no, we forgot to provide water. So our planning needs to be informed. We need to be able to know exactly what ought to be there for us to be delivered that service, and where do we, what if we have, and who are the important partners. Because knowledge management is also about collaboration and partnership. And it was emphasized yesterday. I don't even want to go there more. We need to acknowledge in our department those people we know. We need to identify those good practices and bad practices in addressing the challenges in the delivery of services. We need to create a system, knowledge management system, a system to collect, store, analyze, and disseminate. Even if you don't have the ICT system in place, but have a system of how you know how you collect knowledge, how do you store it, where, so that even and that system should be communicated to all, so that people will know where to find what is it that they need. We need to empower our organization and motivate everyone to participate. The next slide talks about what as DPSA we've been embarking on, the roadmap that we looked at. We have done awareness sessions on the framework. We have developed a strategy in terms of how we go to consult the framework. And we are at the strategy implementation phase where we have developed tools and guidelines. Last year, we developed a KM maturity, a KM strategy assessment guide. It is an audit guide, but we decided to, with the consultation of other peers, including academia and other departments, we decided we need to move from the word audit because it bound to have a negative connotation, but it's a guide that was influenced by the results of the maturity assessment, because many people are asking, how do we assess our organization? That's why we are there at the PSA, to make sure that those tools, those toolkits that you need to be able to do your work in organization to develop. The guide is almost finalized. It's finalized. It's almost at the approval stage. It's just one part that we need to do, then we can distribute it. And we are busy with KM implementation plans. I want to talk to this. We, as the PSA, have embarked on maturity assessment. I'm going to talk to it later. But currently, we have asked department as a way of improving their status, their current status, to develop their maturity, their implementation plan over 3 years. That will assist them to be able to improve from where they are to where they're going to, they would desire to be. On the way forward, I think just look into this. And the one thing I left is that in 2025, through all these initiatives that we've taken, the initiation, the maturity assessment, and the implementation plan, those all the initiatives and other initiatives that we're embarking on will contribute, assist us in ensuring that when we review the framework in 2025, is all inclusive, it is modern, it reflects the times that we are in. That's why we always encourage participation in the assessments, in the implementation plan, and in other initiatives that we embark on as the DPSA, the forums, the master classes, because your contribution will assist in making sure that when we review the framework, it is a framework that is a current, a framework that is can be benchmarked international and within the continent, a framework that will be able to not look at us as only KM practitioners with borders, but KM practitioners outside borders, where we are able to see ourselves in data management, where we are able to see ourselves in business intelligence, where we are able to identify our roles in information management, where we are able to identify our role in 4IR and any other disruption that is coming. We will not be threatened, but we'll quickly be able to identify our position. The DPSA embarked on the maturity assessment over 3 years. The purpose was to evaluate the advancement of implementation of knowledge management practices within government, and also to be able to identify best practices. And come up with initiatives to ensure that a similar level of maturity is attained in government. These are the dimensions that were looked into. The dimensions are not highlighted in the document thus far, but as we review, they shall be highlighted. There's leadership and governance. In leadership governance, we look into KM policies and strategies. I think my time is running out. The business alignment is looking at the strategic bit of KM in the organization. This is done on the template, an Excel template. Most of you are here, I can see they have engaged with it. And this assessment was done in the national and provincial departments. I just want to stress that so that I don't get a question, why was it not? The farmer at the moment is not giving us power over the local sphere, but we are in partnership with local sphere, but the result that we'll be sharing today only reflect those. So this people and culture, technology have seen KM processes, learning and innovation, and military evaluation, which is very key because we need to measure the KM initiatives in our organization, and we need to ensure that there are KPIs for knowledge management in our organization. These are the maturity levels. Colleagues will go through them when you look at the document. My time is up, I can see. This in the entire whole public service, 5 minutes. In the entire whole public service, we had only 81 departments. Those that included both national and provincial departments. And as we have seen the maturity levels, most of our government departments are still at the reaction phase. Those are 39 over 81, 29, they are in the initiation phase, which means they are beginning to recognize the need of the knowledge management, of managing knowledge. The first ones, they are just haphazardly, adroitly finding themselves managing there and there. And 11 departments are at the expansion phase. They are stable, they are KM practices that are integrated in everyday work. And 2 are at the refinement. These results are up to March 2022. Those who have submitted now, we have not looked into them. This is the comparison between national departments and provincial departments. You see that there isn't much of a difference there. We are more or less the same. The next slide is sharing the results according to the categories. You can see that around business alignment, knowledge processes, and monitoring and evaluation, we are still in action. And around the stages, the dimensions that are at least at the initial phase is leadership and governance, people and culture, and learning. Concerning the expansion phase, most departments worked it themselves. This was a self-assessment tool at expansion phase because we do have the infrastructure. But the question is, are we fully exploiting the infrastructure for the benefits that we should? Do we really understand? Do we only realize now in COVID that we can use the infrastructure to share knowledge? There are many things that Microsoft package comes up with that we have not exploited with. Have we really asked our ICT that for training for our departments in terms of the Microsoft packages that we have? That's why as the knowledge management practitioners, we need to partner with ICT. We need to make sure that the ICT infrastructure and organizations support KM activities, that ICT strategies are reflective of KM objectives, that the security policies for organization for storing of information are also looking into KM initiatives. As the way forward, the DPSA this year has written a letter to all the departments. We were sharing the summary of the 3-year report of the maturity assessment and informing the departments that we will start to do the monitoring of the implementation of the KM framework. Thus, that says that departments are supposed to be submitting
implementation plan over 3 years. We fortunately on the 20th of April of May, we had a forum where we shared the tool and we shared why and what is going to happen. We were also sharing the final reports that we have submitted. The report is also on the DPSA website. And the closing date for the submission of the implementation plan was the 15th of June. But as I'm still on leave, I see they're still logging in. And we have opened again for those who did not submit maturity assessment, the maturity assessment, because the key for you to be able to do the implementation plan is for you should have done the maturity assessment of the organization. And it is very key that I say this, that when you're assessing the maturity of your organization, you can't assess yourself. You need all the stakeholders. KM practitioners partner with your unit, partner with your branch. You won't break through if you think you're going to drive KM on your own in your office. KM is about the system of management of knowledge in your organization. Partner with them, work with them, help them to understand the value of knowledge management in the organization. Help them to understand the value of harvesting the knowledge. Help them to understand the knowledge assets of the organization, how valuable they are, I think.
I will read the online space comment, Mr. Bande, but before I do that, or I'll do that first and then I will come to the house. So the question here is from Benny. Interesting case study about the floods in KZN, and it shows that lack of implementation led to nothing being done to mitigate challenges, incidents that might be experienced in the future due to floods. So you just made a comment and maybe you want to just expand on that, because and even begin to look at how the maturity levels of our knowledge management system and our framework implementation can mitigate that kind of scenario. But just hold it. I want to first see if there's anyone in the room that would like to make a comment. That doesn't have to be a question, just a comment. And there's another one from Bridget, which I'll read just now.
Thank you very much, and good morning, and thank you for the informative presentation. For me, I think the last part, the slide before the last, where you spoke about issues of, maturity assessment, that we are looking at a 3-year report, with respect to that. So I just want to understand what would be your turnaround time with respect to that report, being finalized. We would be interested, to see the state of public service insofar as that is concerned. Are we regressing, or are we, moving forward, in that particular space? But I was also thrilled that there was a comment that one of my colleagues at the back spoke to, about staying on the lane. And I think your presentation actually provided that particular balance. That when you venture in the space of knowledge management, there is absolutely no way that you can, ignore the other side. That is now the enabler in this particular case, which is the ICT. But I think as you are presenting, speaking to your presentation, it was also demonstrating in clear terms, that balance between the two. That this one also relies, a lot, on the other. So I was happy, with that. Once again, thank you for your comprehensive presentation.
Thank you very much about that, and then I'll read the last one and then you can respond. Oh, sorry, there's two more questions. Let me read this one and then you can respond, and then I'll take the other two questions. So from Bridget Maleka, why are state-owned entities not part of the assessment initiative, as we are also funded by government? Okay, so Ms. Sibande, I'm going to allow you to respond to those three comments and questions, and then I'll ask the other two questions.
The first question was asking how to use visual assessment.
Yes, it's about how do we use the system to support and to mitigate what has happened now in KZN, and given the fact that you have given us multiple occasions when the same thing happened, why is it that it's still happening in the same at the same levels of severity?
Thank you very much. Just going to start with Bridget Malika. The onus is on the department in terms of cascading the maturity assessment. If the departments had a KM forum internally, the state-owned entity is supposed to, according to the structure of the framework structure on forums, on steercoms, you're supposed to be participating in the department's forum. Remember, like you said, you're reporting to the same minister. So it was not our intention that you included, but the assessment of the department is supposed to be inclusive and reflecting the status of the state-owned entity. That means you would have been assessed within the assessment that is done in the department. We will also address that. As we go along in the next assessment, we'll make sure that everybody is all inclusive and the departments are aware and are making sure that you are part of. But it also highlights a gray area in terms of the steercoms internally. Say, the state of the public service report is already out. It's already on the department website. It can be shared. I can also share it. It is available. It has been approved. Benny, though I'm not working in the municipality, I understand, I know from being a citizen in the province. However, we know that the climate change also has been a contributing factor. But I think from my side, there needs to be a community of practice that is formed within the space of the climate change and disaster management and all parties, and reflect on the lessons of the past. If a province was hit by a flood in April and again in May, and the people, for example, people in Mdloti, they had moved back to their homes. Those who had moved back to their homes, Mdloti is by the beach center, and it's a very nice place to live in after Zimbabwe, but it has shown that it can be flooded. And if those people can move back and have a milder flood than the other one and lose everything, we need to ask ourselves, why are we allowing people to move back? There is an element, remember, knowledge management also is an element of research. Knowledge management and research goes hand in hand. You cannot manage knowledge when you don't also up your game in research. So there is a need for intense research, study on cyclones. I'm not an environmentalist, nor a person about geography. I just read the patterns of cyclones. We have seen past years the cyclones that affected Zambia, and they were moving from, even affected Zimbabwe at some point about 3 years ago from Mozambique. They were going up. This time they moved down. So I know the country is participating in a lot of forums, But as the country as well, we need to look, and knowledge managers need to be that part of those deliberations. I know also Mile Institute in Durban, it's a center of excellence for eThekwini. They've also been having engagement, but maybe we have having sporadical engagement. We need to have serious engagement, because for now we are at an upper level in Joburg, but we don't know when the same flight is going to hit Joburg. But as quickly as we can learn from them, we can be able to. But I think it calls for all of us to get gears of research into those and come together and come up with a solution.
Hi, Zibenzile. What was the stand? Sorry. For those that introduced myself yesterday, but I'll do it again. Lance Barbier, Western Cape Government, Department of Transport and Public Works. First of all, Cici, I just want to say thank you for what you are doing. I mean, it's hard being in your shoes. Yesterday, I spoke about GPSA having one person driving the implementation of knowledge management in this entire South African government, and it's you. So I just want to acknowledge that. Okay. So thank you for what you're doing, and you are doing a fabulous job. I just want to make a comment. Last year or 2 years ago, I was in Washington at the KM conference over there, and I sat under the teaching of Dave Snowden, who is a well-recognized KM practitioner. And anyway, to cut long story short, he made a statement that resonates with me. He says it's extremely difficult to measure whether knowledge is being shared amongst one another. It's difficult. But what is easy is if you can measure the systems that are in place. So my comment is basically a recommendation. Perhaps you must consider including as part of your maturity KM implementation framework how many of the current systems, KM systems, now there are 5 basics, and we can go into detail like the enterprise content management system, the learn from leave, the lunch, lessons learned, expertise locator systems, and so forth. My encouragement is I would like to encourage you and say, assess how many of those basic systems are actually implemented in the various departments in this country, as well as how many of the staff members who must operate those systems are actually equipped to do so. I think that's very important because we are measuring people, leadership, and all of that. But we're having the challenge of is knowledge management really being well implemented. And I think we need to go get back to the basics of assessing, do we have the systems in place? And are the people equipped to actually do those things? I think that should be the foundational measurement. And whatever comes out of that, I would encourage you then to say, you know what? You don't have the following two. Please ensure that you get that implemented in your respective department, and maybe 60% of your staff members are already equipped to do that. Please get your people equipped. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you. Mine is a comment. Good morning. My name is Mapule, and it's Whitney from GEMS. Also want to start by appreciating you, Zibenzile, for all the work that you do, and also the progress that we see. We appreciate that. I want to comment on the assessment results that you've shared with us. We can see that the majority of the departments are still at the bottom at the reaction level, but I see there are two that at the refinement level. My suggestion is let's profile them. Let's find out what works. What are they doing different that works for them? And I also like the point that has been made about systems. What system do they have? So clearly there are some things working. Let's profile them. Let's develop good practices. Let's show the others what success looks like so that they have something to aspire to. My last point is around, I don't know how to put this, but supporting this other government department at an executive level. Adoption must start there. So let's start putting our heads together to see how best can we support them so that their executives from the ministers or the premiers and the DGs at that level start appreciating knowledge management so that at the bottom they find it easy to do their work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you can just make a closing remark for me. This is the evidence of a well-run conference where there is lessons to be learned and people share the experience. So, Mr. Bandu, you want to just make your last closing comment?
Thank you. In closing, we have started resuscitating community practices where these departments that are on refinement have shared their experiences, and we are continuing our community of practices. We are doing them as per dimension. We do 2 dimensions a year, and our case study writer, Dudley, has started writing on those departments. If you get into the DPSA website, you will see there's a service delivery review journal. And if you are not in our database, please see me today so that you get that publication. It's a publication that shares best practices in government, not only in the KM space, but within the broader government, but we also show those case studies. And as soon as we have a portal, which we're praying for, we will be able to have all those case studies. And also those who have case studies that we don't know of, please bring them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we give a round of applause, and can we see some hands online? No, just online. I'm asking them also to show. Thank you very much for that informative session and for us having a even short but informative conversation about it. I think this is why we as peers and as practitioners come together to have a conversation. Our next presenter is responsible for 2 presentations. Mr. Chowki, if you can come to the podium so long to prepare yourself. You will have about 20 minutes to present, so it gives us about 10 minutes to ask questions. Okay, and I will give you an indication when it's the 10 minutes. Would that be fine? Okay.
My partner is good morning, colleagues. First of all, I just want to yesterday I wanted to be here, but due to issues in the office, I couldn't, but I was here in spirit. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you to NSG for the opportunity, the Remark. We appreciate the platform. All right. Okay. Yeah, no, this is television. All right. No, thank you very much. So I have two presentations that I want to share with you, and I will share one and break, take persons, and thereafter, share the next. But these 2 presentations, colleagues, are related, and I hope that after my presentation, we will all be encouraged to do what's right by KM. We cannot always rely on a sympathy. It's about time that we need to take our rightful place. We need to learn from other professions, and that's the whole purpose of this, that KM itself needs to be professionalized. And this is not job reservations, because sometimes when we put this forward, people think that, okay, so they want to be treated special. We are not about that, but we are saying that we need to be professionalized, we act professionally in the way we conduct ourselves when we do knowledge management. Because it has been more than, I think we're going 30 years now in the field. Some of us caught it when, it just started when we were in varsity. But there have been a lot of things that, developed, a lot of development around knowledge management. So I'm sharing with you, colleagues, something that's developed by Knowledge Management South Africa. I've got my colleague here, Mapule, who is here to support me. So when I go off tangent, she will direct me. So this framework, colleagues, the knowledge management competency framework is under development. I needed to emphasize that. So there's a bit of consultation, making sure that we engage with you as our constituents. And I see we have 75 people on the call, as well as 1,000 in the room. Can I hear the 1,000? Yeah. So, colleagues, I'm going to share with you KNSA's designations and proficiency levels. We have communicated this in the past year, but I know I need to remind you of what they are. We also have guiding principles of how we would go about to develop this KM competency framework. There are 3 levels or 3 categories of competence that we are also going to look at, from a behavioral perspective, what we call core competency as well as technical competency. So I just want to remind colleagues that when we talk about competencies, we're talking about a set of behavior actions that the incumbent need to bring to a position in order to perform its task and function with competency. So that's how we define it, and we borrow from published in 1992. So these are the KNSA proficiency designations. We have a certified knowledge management practitioner, which indeed is an entry in our categorization. And because we understand the human resource, how human resources works, we have an entry at level 1 and another emerging at level 2. You will appreciate this, colleagues, because of when you are actually take this and go have a discussion with the human resource practitioners, they will ask you that how do you differentiate between these? And then the differentiation talks to the level of complexity of the job. The differentiation also talks to if we were to put a price on this horse, who do we pay more and who do we pay less? And then when we recruit, what should we expect from this person versus the other? So we're saying the level 1 from a practitioner perspective is a student, right? A newly qualified or a beginner. A beginner could be somebody who moved from one profession to knowledge management. We want them to go through the basics. And the second level is emerging. And here is people that have acquired meaningful knowledge and skills. They have grounded themselves in knowledge management, right? And then we have the certified knowledge management specialist. We also have the 2 levels in there. The one is established, is matured in knowledge and skills with application. And the differentiation is that also this person now can apply. The second level is the person who's now excelling in the role. They have mastered knowledge and successful skills in application. So this is very important for us when we're having discussions. And again, we are saying that then we will not have somebody who comes, and say, you know what, I've been working in this organization forever, now I'm going to be a knowledge manager. And managing, and they're frustrating. So we're trying just to put some goals. And then the last category is the certified knowledge management master. And this one is the authoritative and a thought leader in knowledge management. Not only for the organization or in the organization, but these are the people that then you come up to as people who are working. And these people generate new knowledge and skills for staff and we challenge you colleagues that we need to see more PhD in knowledge because of because if you are going to be leading, I don't have a PhD just to declare, so I'm not talking down on anyone. We are challenging ourselves to say that we need to start researching on knowledge management, right? May I proceed? Okay, so that was my introduction, and then we said that we have 3 categories of competencies, and one is the behavioral competency. It's very important for us that we need to behave in a way befitting of a knowledge manager. You must see a knowledge manager by the way they behave, right? And then we have borrowed from the National Treasury on this behavioral competencies, and I'll share with you. We have also have the core competency. And the core competency, colleagues, we are looking at the KM what we call knowledge management cycle. And I think Ms. Sebenzile also shared on that. And but we said, because we have a standard, we cannot develop these things and then, forget about our standard. We need quoted ISO 3401, clause 45 and 46. So our principle here is that we are guided by this KM standard and this process. And on the technical element, colleagues, we have borrowed from an organization called the SHL. Now, SHL is an international recognized organization that helps organizations that assess, people for job and doing recruitment. And it's very important that we need to align to do. So I'm going to share with you the behaviors that we're looking at, which we borrowed from the National Treasury, is that we want us to be emotionally, have high emotional intelligence. And this speaks to us being self-aware, being live self or self-managed, social and cultural awareness, and relationship. This is very important as a knowledge manager, that you are emotional self-aware, you have self-confidence, you have emotional self-control and trustworthy consciousness, and adaptability, flexible, achieve, drive, initiatives, as well as empathy, organizational awareness, social service orientation, influence to influencing others, developing and leading others, conflict management, teamwork, collaboration, and communication. And from a relationship perspective, you can see that we have teamwork, collaboration, and communication as one of the underlying competencies that we're looking at. From a professional conduct perspective, we want knowledge managers to have good people skills, people orientation, valuing diversity, which is very important in a country of our own. We have a lot of diversity issues that we're dealing with. As a knowledge manager, you cannot be caught with your pants down when it comes to that, because there are a lot of people who will trust you with information and they'll run to you when nobody is listening. So as knowledge manager, you must be very, very aware of the diversity issues in the country. And the other one is that we need to be have high professional ethics policy. We need to be honest, we need to be punctual, we need to be responsible. So these are the behaviors that we're looking at, colleagues. And like I said, we brought it from National Treasury in 2010, Competitive Framework for Financial Management, because we understand the discipline that you need to manage your finance is the same discipline that you need to manage this very important asset, by the way, knowledge management, which is called knowledge. And I'm going to share with you the competencies. I indicated to you that we have core competency, which we borrowed, and we are integrating our traditional KM life cycle with clause 45, 4.5, 4.6, and 4.7. And pardon my typo there. So this is what we have in our framework. Let's call it our framework. It's our framework. In our framework, this is what we have. So we have dimensions which clause 45 says we need to develop knowledge. And how do we go about developing knowledge? We will acquire new knowledge. So this framework emphasizes that you are acquiring new knowledge. And the understanding is that you will continuously do your audit. And where there are gaps, then you go and develop or go and borrow. Go and do lessons learned, go and benchmark so that you bring that knowledge into the current. Then you will apply the current knowledge. This is very important because if you don't apply your current knowledge, colleagues, you will continuously collect, talk to people, have talk shop, and you don't do anything about it. So whatever that you are learning, you must apply. Retain current knowledge. In our books, I will share the cycle as well. Handling outdated knowledge. And also invalid knowledge. This is very important. There's knowledge that is outdated. What do we do with it? And what do we do with the knowledge that is invalid? So we need to validate the knowledge that we gather. The next thing is, colleagues, there is a new clause which I like very much, which talks to knowledge conveyance and transformation. So if you have bought a property, in recent times. You will know that you need a conveyancer to transfer your property from one name to the next. And then I like the language used here because of this is an asset that you need to learn how to transfer it to the next person as an asset. So there's the element of transformation. Digital transformation, people talk about digital transformation these days, but knowledge conveyance and transformation is key. It talks to the human interaction. It talks to representation. It talks to the combination, and it talks to the internalization, also learning. So if you look at these colleagues, we know Nonaka and Takechi, those, the second model. So this is the second model playing out in the framework, in the ISO standard. 4.7 says knowledge enablers, which is human capital. In our language, in many organizations, it's human resources policy. And then we are saying, how then do human resources come in? We talk about that. Processes, technology, infrastructure, governance, and culture. I forgot that I need to speed up as well as the talk. But the knowledge culture is very important. So we cannot have a program that does not deal with the knowledge culture issue because of it is different from others. And then we have married these things into that cycle that we're talking about. So you start off by with audit, where you are handling outdated and invalid knowledge. You go to knowledge acquisition, where you are acquiring new knowledge. We talk about knowledge organization. And I understand that this is where your records information management plays a major role. So the question that many people ask is, if we are pushing knowledge management, let's forget about information management. I say no. Those are, our stepping stones. Those are our building blocks. You cannot manage knowledge and then you don't want to manage the rest. You cannot say, I'm not attending these meetings with information management people. I'm a knowledge manager. I want to be where knowledge management is. And then you have a problem because you don't understand what knowledge management is. And the last thing that I also want to say, colleagues, is that it's the sharing of knowledge. And I indicated that the second model comes in very handy in that. And also the knowledge application. As I indicated. So what we have done is that we have taken these core competencies now and we said, okay, so what is the competence? For example, we're talking about knowledge audit or handling outdated invalid knowledge, right? We want to identify knowledge gaps. We define what it is. So we're saying this, for example, is to protect the organization from making mistakes or working inefficiently as a result of the usage of knowledge irrelevant within the organization context. Through informal determination, through formal evaluation of how and where knowledge is. So that's the definition. And then we give example of activities. I don't want to bore you with the details, but also what we are also doing is that we need to identify what tools and techniques. In knowledge management, we don't necessarily talk about knowledge management, IT systems. We don't want to push that. But we want to push the tools and techniques in care. And it could be an IT tool. But we believe that we can still have communities of practice, knowledge cafes that don't necessarily need you to be in the platform. And we understand that we are in COVID, we have monkeypox, we have other things that will force us to interact differently. So that is that, colleagues. And we have a competency, definition, examples, and tools and techniques. And we are saying to the National School of Government that when we start developing the curriculum for knowledge management, these are the things that we need to do. A colleague was saying that, do these people know exactly what they're doing? When we say knowledge, we have knowledge managers now. They know exactly what they're doing. If you are saying a knowledge manager, can you run a community of practice? Can you set it up? Can you run a community in different core areas of your business? Can you run a knowledge cafe? Do you know how to go about doing knowledge lessons learned review? If we were to say we have a knowledge manager, we have a doctor in the house, somebody is here, can we come and assist? Can you just stand up and say, I'm a knowledge manager, I'll sort it out? Or do we need to really go out there and get somebody else? And that's the case. When you are in meetings and somebody is struggling, we say, do we have a doctor in the house? And when the doctor stand up, we know that the person is sick. can we really rely on you as a knowledge manager in different departments who say that if there is a department, knowledge management in that unit, in that national department, provincial department, local government, we know that knowledge management is being practiced in a certain, and that's what we're trying to do. We need to somehow have a view of the kind of people that we have. And I'm going to share with you the TICLAS competence that we have defined as well. So the TICLAS competence colleagues, we have 8 what we call grade 8 skills factors. So it's about leading and deciding as a knowledge manager. It's about supporting and cooperating. It's about interacting and presenting. You want to understand what sort of, if you understand analyzing and interpreting data, be it quantitative or qualitative, we want to understand if you are able to create. Are you creating? Can you create a new concept? Organizing and executing, adapting to change and change, enterprising and again, these are the elements that we are going now to say that we have 8 factors of growth, we have 20 dimensions of the level, and then we have 112 components of behaviors that we have assessed. And when we have done that, then we are saying that the certified knowledge management master, and so we break it down in terms of the levels now. We have 5 levels as I have shared, and then we are able to say from a leading perspective, we really don't expect the practitioner and the practitioner to have this competency and intention. However, there are certain expectations from leading and deciding that we need to have for somebody. And at specialist 1, person must be able to make prompt and clear decisions which may involve tough choices and consider risks and take responsibility for actions subject and people. That's what we expect. And when we move to specialist number 2, we are saying you have already mastered this, right? Now we're saying over and above that, we also want you to take initiatives and act confidence and work under our own direction and initiate and generate activities. Then we know that this is the specialist we are talking to. And then for the master colleagues, we are saying, yes, you have gone through the ranks. You've been a 1, you've been a 2, now you're a master. And as a master, we expect you to provide leading and supervising, which is provide others with a clear direction, set appropriate standard of behavior, delegate when appropriate, and then and motivate and empower others, provide staff with development opportunity and coaching, and put staff of high caliber. That's what we expect from a master. And you see from payments A, we really want people who consider themselves to be masters in knowledge management. We need to start adopting other organizations that are in the initiative stage and coach and mentor the knowledge managers. I'm not going to share with you the details because we have quite a number of things and we don't have time. But what I wanted to illustrate to you is that the KMSA is already in the process of finalizing this and will be communicated after. And that's it. That's my presentation, the first part of my presentation.
Can we give it a round of applause? Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chowki. You were dead in time. It's managing knowledge and time. Any comments from the floor? Anything? I think these are very important issues. In fact, you spoke my language when you started talking about competencies.
Sorry, guys, it looks like I'm talking all the time, but this is a topic that really interests me. Nice presentation, Mr. Chowki. Really enjoyed listening to you. And the comment that I want to make on competencies and proficiency is in the public service, and I'm glad the School of Government is here. In the public service, we have a problem of implementation. We know how to do stuff, We now to develop nice plans, nice strategies, nice policies, but now give them the tool and say, now go and do it. But that is the problem. So we all, as knowledge management practitioners, we all know knowledge management. We know what to do, right? And where things must fit, and we can put the puzzle together. But we've got a practical problem. We have an implementation problem, and what needs to happen. And the DPSA actually developed the steps, to get people from knowing to doing. But that's another ballgame. We've got the implementation problem. Public servants don't know how to practically do something. So my recommendation today, and it's based on my studies, is results-based M&E, program and project management, change management, and strategic planning, specifically the VMOSA planning framework, is an implementation package that can be taught to public servants to help them become practical implementers of their specific task. That's the problem that we're sitting with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's another question or comment.
I have my colleague.
Kosam, just check whether there's any comment online in the meantime, please. Just read it, please. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Hi, Kolani. For your session was really appreciated. My comment that I would make, I really support the comments made by implementation. It's a huge problem within government people. By not implementing, by having too much plans, by having too much theories and not knowing how to apply it. And sometimes, okay, sorry, must I repeat the whole story again? Because I'm actually not a public speaker, so yeah, I want to say yes, I support the issue about implementation, and then also we are blinded by theories. There is practical solutions, and yes, your knowledge audit is really the first step that you have to do so that you can see what you have. Like in our case, we are two departments, we have merged. So through the merger, you know, we will have to start from scratch in some or other way because they've got technologies that we didn't have. Agriculture has got a lot of systems, more than us. We are more GIS focused. So I think, yes, we should start with a proper audit. And also, I think one should really look at what do you have to start off with and what is it? It's your intranet. And yes, I think through KMS, they had a great webinar. Yes, I think it was 2 years back. Some person came and presented practicalities how to design your intranet to be your starting point for knowledge management. And that is the story to me. Start with the practical stuff, which you are able to implement. Don't have big dreams if you don't have the stove. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Maybe Mr. Chowki, you can respond to that solo, and then we'll take this and then read the other one.
Okay, no, thank you. And I take your comment. Project and problem management, change management, planning is a big issue, and probably something that we need to consider as part of the compromise. That when you go into the details around this framework that you propose on the technical aspect, it touches on more on a practical, very practical level. And I think we are looking at that because when we are moving from theory, we need to be very practical. And hence I was saying that when you look at the master, if for example, from analysis and interpretation, for example, you expect the practitioner to gather information, you expect the specialist to make sense of that information, you expect the master to write up and present the very same in a way that is correct. So that's how we have done it. And also it is coming out maybe not necessarily as maybe in problem management, project management, change management, planning, but it is incorporated. And I think at an appropriate time we will share the framework. Yeah. But definitely we are trying to track it down. And I think as knowledge management discipline, we have grown. We are no longer total definition, explicit tasks and stuff like that. We are more on the ground because of we believe that when you look at the NDP, we are the people who are supposed to be helping the government to meet some of their targets. Because I mean, it's about knowledge that's being shared. So when you talk about the research, there's a lot of research that is done for this administration and repeated by the next administration. It is us knowledge management who are supposed to be helping the new government to connect the dots so that we save resources. Because if you imagine that, if I'm a consultant, I will dust off the old report and give it to the new guy. He will not know. But if you have a knowledge manager in that specific environment, the knowledge manager will be able to tell that this report really is a 1996 report rehashed. Can we do things differently? So that's the whole thing. Knowledge retention is key, but it is also the application which will make a difference. And if we remain, and I think some of the people say, no, we don't want to be, we need to be specific knowledge managers, is because of there are certain things that fail in the value chain. And when we talk about systems, for example, something that's failed in the value chain, and people, because of the failures, they don't want to be associated with the other. But we are saying that as knowledge managers, we need to worry about the value chain. So if knowledge management is not working because data issues are not resolved in the organization, you go down there and so on. If people are not behaving, the knowledge sharing culture is not there, go down there and address it so that your knowledge management will work. Incident management, problem management in IT, for example, is a big thing. Work with your IT guys to say, guys, our IT systems are not working. The incidents are not resolved. The problems that we are thinking about are not resolved. Our change management in IT is not working. You're changing things. You don't know how to use this. Let's do it properly. You as a knowledge manager must partner with IT, but don't take over IT and don't allow IT to take over you, but you must partner with them. So, and again, the theory, I cannot talk much about it because indeed that's where we have been known as people who steal our things. And you remember in business, people want tangible results. They want to see the impact. If you cannot make something an impact in the business process, then people will usually ignore it. So.
Thank you very much. I'm Sue from the Department of Human Settlements. I would like firstly to commend KMS with this wonderful work that they are doing, professionalizing the knowledge management profession. It is very interesting. I also enjoyed your presentation, and it is very exciting. My first question, I would like to know, I know that you are still developing this. I'm interested to know the timelines of implementing and formalizing this, that when can we start expect utilizing this, because I know, when you want to advertise for a position, it's always a struggle to know, but it is very interesting now to have these guidelines. And when you were presenting yours, I think the slide of behavioral skills, I was taking notes, but I'm glad that you also got to a part of versatility, because I think being easily adapt to change, because I think that's one area that I realized that is very important to be, as a knowledge management practitioner, to be able to be versatile, to easily adapt to changing business needs. I want to ask on value, you mentioned value diversity. Does it also include diversity, knowledge diversity? Because I've also established that while you practice knowledge management, you need to be diverse in terms of knowledge, because when you do the knowledge audit for the organization, you identify so many gaps. And in coming up with initiatives that will address those gaps, some are outside your area of expertise. So once you've got those those findings and you compile your audit reports, you need to do research. And I'm glad Sebe did mention that knowledge management, research is very critical in knowledge management. So then you have to do, for you to be able to come up with initiatives, you need to do research so that we can come up with initiatives that will address the needs that we have identified in your knowledge audit. So my question is that value diversity, does it also cover that? Because I think it's an important skill that for knowledge management practitioner, you need to be diverse in knowledge and be able to be willing to do research. Like, if I may make an example, in our environment, when we did our knowledge audit in 2015, we identified a number of gaps, like our processes were very weak, which were affecting our performance as a department. Then we identified the need that we need to institutionalize business process management. That skill we do not have in the department. So only this year that we had managed to outsource, we outsource the skill. So we are having this 2-year project that now we are implementing. But it is we as KM that we need to work on our processes, but we did not have a skill. The only way that we got to know about that, we had to do research and understand how can the issue of processes be addressed. So going back, I think I'm repeating myself. So knowledge diversity, I think it's also critical. So I'm not sure if the value diversity covers the issue of knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chauke. I think our colleague has mentioned quite a number of things, so you can respond in the meantime until I reach our other colleague, because I think the issues that you raised are quite important. Yeah. And this will then be our last comment and question.
No, thank you very much. So change agility is key. We have seen with COVID, COVID caught us, while we're thinking that we still have time. It uses travels with people, and so that becomes a challenge. I see. I neglect the people on the other side, so apologies about that. So change agility is very important, and I agree with you that we need to be very agile. We need to be versatile as knowledge managers. Diversity is diverse in terms of skills, but diverse in acknowledging diversity in people, equity, and also inclusivity. So this means that as a knowledge manager, if I'm on a wheelchair and you are having an activity that requires to run around, you need to be mindful of me. That's what it means. But it also means that if I come in my work, I make it a point that I understand what our CAs or chartered accountants are struggling with, our engineers are struggling with. I want to know what HR is struggling with. And that's the diversity in understanding. And hence, I can't remember, but somebody mentioned that you need to be in the front line of business. You need to understand business. You also need to understand the back office as a knowledge manager. Otherwise, your value add in an organization will not be seen. You are focusing on doing knowledge management for the sake of knowledge management. So your role is to solve the problems of the organizations. Your role is to unblock bottlenecks in the system. Your role is to make sure that the business process flow in the business, and work with those people to solve those challenges. So in the core competency, we are saying we have analysis and interpretation, and it's about research, it's about data management, it's about you drawing insight from knowledge. So I think we are comfortable, and that will also be addressed in the framework that we're proposing.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Andy Soa.
I am with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in a branch called EPWP and responsible for knowledge management. Colin, I just want to start off by appreciating the fact that KSMA really sees the commendable work that is being done by knowledge managers on the ground. Okay, and the fact that at least there is some growth with that respect. I'm going to ask a very straightforward question. Actually,
triggered by what Mapule said earlier on, that we need to begin to document, capture and document the best practices that are being done in the industry. My question is, with that said, when do we get Korwane to a point where we begin to talk about an integrated system that enables us to share the best practices or otherwise capture the best practices? With this being asked, I don't think that it is anything that is impossible. I've seen with the academic institution where they've got consortiums. Basically, in those consortiums, really, I think they are just sharing best practices around what the systems. They've made it very easy, to support themselves with respect to IT-related issues, where if you are in the University of Port Elizabeth, you don't need to struggle to give a client or user any resource, or any information resource that they need that is probably based in the University of Free State. So this is just that I'm asking. When are we ever going to get to a point as knowledge managers, with the growth that we are in now, the growth that we have, where we begin to speak about an integrated system that supports all of us?
It would be an
Thank you so much, Mr. Chowk. And I think also just to answer the part that when are we getting this, so that we can, first of all, appoint at a particular level. Secondly, we can create portfolios for those people. And thirdly, it would help us with performance management of colleagues that we, so it's the integrated system. And when do we get this thing? And you got about a minute or a half.
Can I just answer that and say that the next presentation talks to your person? Can we try to align on that? And then the one is that I think the team is taking it through the approval process. We are hoping that it will be communicated as an official document in the conference in August. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We are running slightly late, but we started late. So we are going to have the next presentation. I am going to give Mr. Chowki 15 minutes for presentation and then another 10 minutes for a round of questions. And then we will break for our tea. Okay? Also, maybe just to say, we will be sharing the presentation. So if there's anyone that you want to pick up on something again. And also, over tea break is the best conversations. I'm sure the best conversations are happening over tea and over lunch.
We're organizing ourselves, we're improvising for colleagues who are watching online. Done. Yeah. That was thank you for the previous presentation.
So, colleagues, the point that you just raised, we are arguing, as KMA said, that we need to create value.
And that's what the ISO standard 30401 asks of us. That we as knowledge management, we need to create value. And we are saying that we need to create an inter-organizational knowledge system. Am I talking to you? They can't hear me. They cannot hear me. All right. Yeah, apologies about that, colleagues. So I was saying that we are saying that knowledge management must create value for organizations, right? and you guys at the back will indicate to me if you can hear me. And we need to create an inter-organizational knowledge management system, right? That's what you're talking about, to say, yes, it's good that as an organization, as a department, we are doing okay, but I want to learn and I want to share what I know with others, right? The best practice that we're talking about. So we're saying that we can do that if we use ISO 30401 framework as a framework.
So I'm going to share and skip this part.
Colleagues, I'm worried that maybe you might not see, but this is before COVID, a day in the office. I'll read it out for you. So when I go to the office, I'll grab a cup of coffee before I go. I drink my coffee while driving. So, you know, it has to be an auto, right? So that you don't spill. And then you commute to the office. And for me, commuting to the office took me about 1.5 hours, 2 hours at most. That was before COVID. And then when I get to the office now, you know, already there are emails flying. I check my emails. I check if there are tasks that are allocated to me. I check the internet for new updates. We have an intranet, and then I have chat to a colleague that report to me. Check my emails again, and then sometimes somebody will come to my desk when drinking coffee for a chat, and it can easily become a 15 to 30 minutes talk in the office. And then we go grab lunch, and then, you know, again, work. And then in the afternoon, and I will be printing quite a lot during the day. That's what I used to do. And then the last thing that I wanted to just highlight is that in the afternoon around 3, we really relax. I don't know if you can see my pictures.
I took effort to do that. So you relax, somebody's drinking coffee, you're talking about this and that, you know, you leave and you commute back. And one back to Pretoria, hectic, you know. So that's also our life, 5 days a week. I used to spend almost more than 10 hours going to work. So my kids know that it's 10 hours, daddy's not at home. And I will struggle because I will not be able to assist to drop off the kids or pick up the kids. But let's go back to, so when you go back to during lockdown, a day in the life of a remote worker, a lot of those activities, those were cancelled. So I don't commute anymore, but now I'm doing school run. I've spent some time with my family now, spent some time with my kids. And,
you know, there are no water cooler moments, but we will chat and stuff like that. So I just want to give you a perspective, guys. We don't print, we read online. I read on the screen. I bought a printer, but with time now, I just don't feel like printing anymore. And I wash the dishes. My wife is very happy with me these days. I have time to wash the dishes and also assist the kids with homework, because I used to come back home at 6. So this is how COVID will have readjusted our lives, and I think we need to appreciate that.
The question is, did we see an opportunity as knowledge managers in all this? So colleagues, reimagine, knowledge management post COVID-19. I think of a hybrid working model. A hybrid working model says that I don't have to go to the office every day if I don't have to. A hybrid model says that I need to be very particular on why I'm going to the office and the time that I spend in the office. So it gives us power as knowledge workers, but it also gives us responsibility as knowledge managers. So colleagues, I often say that, when we talk about ISO quality management standard 9001, it requires us to determine the knowledge necessary for the operation of processes and or for achieving conformity of products and services. This is very loaded, because usually we say we're managing knowledge, but what knowledge are you managing? You are managing the knowledge that goes into a service that every consumer and customer gets. You are managing that product. That water that you're drinking is the knowledge. Because of that packaging and everything goes, the knowledge that about a specific sector or a service goes into the package of what we are selling and buying. However, it says that you must plan and you must do. That's the ISO standard. So the doing says maintain that knowledge and make it available to the extent necessary. And then it says, number 3, you must check, must consider the current organizational knowledge and compare it to changing needs and trends. And that's why we are saying that as a knowledge manager, you cannot say that we have achieved. You need to say that, let's adjust, let's see what has changed. And then the last thing is that then if your knowledge is outdated, you must acquire the necessary additional knowledge. And this talks to what we talk about in terms of the information cycle, right? And colleagues, I think you will share this slide, right? I don't want to bore you with the details, but basically we're saying, how do you determine necessary knowledge for the operation of processes? As a knowledge manager, you should not be saying that we are providing knowledge, but you should say, but how do I determine the knowledge necessary for us to work in this space? How do you determine necessary knowledge to achieve conformity of product and service? What it means is that if I'm in the business of creating television monitors, and the person who's creating that television set resigns or dies, will I be able to continue selling my product? And will I be able to guarantee that this product will do what it used to do under current management? That's the question. What we have seen is that programs are supported based on the individual. If you remove that individual, everything falls flat. If we remove 7 from the GPSA program, everything falls off. But the main thing that we need to get the information necessary to achieve conformity. Now, conformity, it says, conformity, there's compliance issues, there's quality issues that you need to deal with. I'm not here to talk about that. How do you maintain this knowledge? How do you make it available? Who have access to this documented information? So you see now, the very same ISO standard talks about documented information. Because at the end of the day, when somebody says, prove to us, you should be able to produce documents. So the issues around data, information, and knowledge, you cannot. And then how documented information is the records of it. So why would you want to alienate or ignore records management? Documented information is very important as a knowledge manager. How do you consider current knowledge and how do you acquire additional knowledge when addressing changing trends and changing needs and trends? That's exactly what it's about. As a knowledge manager, if you cannot answer this person's topics, then we classify you as a practitioner and we assign a coach to you. Right, Mapule? Yeah. All right. So the ISO 30401 says that to support organizations to develop management systems that effectively promote and enable value creation through knowledge. That's the whole vision of it. And if your vision does not talk to value creation, colleagues, effective promotion and enables value creation of the organization that you serve, then we our knowledge management programs are misplaced. We are. I was appealing to both public and private sector to say that let's start implementing ISO 30401, and then we will improve. Don't say, you know what, no, we are still waiting. Implement it and see how it works for you, and then we will improve from there. So as knowledge managers, we need to build compelling business cases for our businesses from organizations. And what I'm sharing with you, colleagues, is not something that I've had, it's something that I've experienced. That when we are aligned on our mandate as the organization, if we are aligned in our mandate as knowledge management practitioners in this room, and value add and our value add responsibilities, we are likely to excel and be consistent with how we impact the business. And I'm talking to your point, man, when you're saying I can't share business, we don't seem to be sharing best practices. But we need to have a business case that says we want to have that kind of a system. Because if we create common understanding of purpose, which is exactly what ISO standard is telling us, creating value for organizations. We need to clarify expectations and ways of work, which is to remove ambiguities and uncertainties. We must highlight our expectation of each other in a team. And here this talks about the whole KM organization. In my where I work, I call it the KM organization. So IT is a partner and a part of KM organization, even though they don't report to me. Records management is a partner in the KM organization that we have created, even though they don't report to me. Because we need them in different places. Information management, ERP systems. Don't say that's ER SEP is SEP. It's not knowledge management. In my organization, I worry about all these things because they form part of the KM organization, which is virtual and invisible, by the way. But we know that when we are dealing with the intranet, marketing have to be part of the discussion. We need to develop skills, commit to continuous development and growth. We need to sustain learning organization possible if we as individuals and as teams are constantly moving. We cannot if we don't learn. The last thing is that we're saying that we need to have role models in our space. We need to have champions in our space. And these champions, colleagues, are not knowledge management champions only. You need to get people who are not knowledge managers to come and champion the course. You must make your senior managers your champions. You must make people in other, functions champions of knowledge management. Build a high-performing team. Start with building a relationship with key stakeholders in your organization. So that I felt maybe let's share. So and I've already spoken to us adopting ISO standard framework. Colleagues, there are a lot of us who have read and been trained on some of these things. So in the room here and people who are online, I'm encouraging you to reach out and let's see how we can maybe share some of the experiences. We need to develop a consistent approach to understanding and institutionalizing KM practices. And that's exactly that. A consistent approach is very important. We need to adopt and map out ISO 401 against our existing programs. So how do you adopt the framework, the ISO framework? You need to look at what you have, look at the framework, see where the gaps are, and develop an action plan. That's that, and I'm not going to read it out, but I would encourage colleagues from NSG to share. We also saying that if you are in the water sector and if you are in the energy sector, sectorally, you must develop what the government will call it the master plan. If you have a master plan in KM, you are able to share across in the sector. So the security cluster can say, the social cluster can say. When you are in the education sector, for example, colleagues, from high school, universities, research and stuff like that, you can share. But if as a local government, you want to do your own thing, you don't connect the dots across government, your best practice sharing will not take you very far. And I'm saying that we need to develop implementation tool. And I was challenging my colleagues that yes, we have the ISO standard, but can we develop the implementation tool so that we can capacitate each other here? I think you might have seen this before, but this is one of the that KMSA have done. We arrange for these guys to share. And there's a lot of insight in this thing. And when you look at this one thing alone, you will see that everything that we have been talking about is included. What you've been talking about today is included here in terms of, how do you deal with issues of leadership and governance? How do you deal with issues of strategy? How do you deal with the issues of interaction and internalization, the culture and the codification and policy? And how then do you go about improving your system at the end? It is all here, police. And some of these informations are available in the internet. And also, if you don't understand, you may ask. But it's actually called KM Shared Canvas 1.0. And there's also this one that I also like most, and you guys can take note of it. But it's also, we had this gentleman, sharing this. And actually, one of our colleagues have won the book from him last year. This is also another framework that you can use where he's directing and advising you from initiating, planning, designing, implementation, operation, and continuous improvement. In my understanding, this kind of thing also talks to
the whole life cycle of I wanted to share with you this one thing, that if the one area where we should start when we talk about integrated knowledge management systems is in the area of human resources. And then it is also in the space of structural capital, which is, you call this the core business processes. And we also have the relational capacity, where we talk about customer improvement, service delivery, and government. My time is, going somewhere. But from a human capital perspective, colleagues, I wanted to encourage you to say, let's consider how knowledge management can help remote work and hybrid work. And hybrid work means that somebody must be able to access the information when they're at home from all systems. It also means that people must be available to assist that person and support them when they're at home. I also wanted to say, the challenges that we have seen is that we have siloed data across different channels remains a big problem. And give employees a voice in this hybrid working model. There's a growing need to democratize knowledge, accessibility, continued by everyone. Hybrid work, information management, requires advanced communication technology and human automation. Regular exchange of knowledge, content about how, what, when, and by whom knowledge is shared. And I also wanted to say that at an individual level, we can, assist with the professionalization and the continuous development programs. At an organizational level, we can assist with, assessments like what they're doing. But also at a societal level, as a country, we really need to push the South African SAPF. We need to identify people who can train us on ISO standards. We also need to push KM DPSA to start with the Excellence Awards. We need to invest in that so that we encourage each other. Also, the likes of knowledge management South Africa to push for professional recognition of people who are excellent in what they're doing. And lastly, I wanted to say leadership and commitment, establish central knowledge portal that is accessible to all. And create infrastructure and also capacity building and benchmark for the very important and certification. I'm going to leave this slide here. My time is up.
So gosh, that's loud. Can we take? Thank you so much, Mr. Chauke. I think we are picking up a trend.
The trend is around how do we implement, how do we share, how do we implement, how do we actually do this. We have a number of frameworks. We have the ISO, we've got the competency framework, we've got the knowledge management framework. So how do we improve our practices? I think I'm picking up that trend in the room as well as from the presenters. I've got my first question, and then Kusum, just check online as well, please. Thank you, sir. Mine is not even a question per se, it's just a humble request, humble plea, I think directed to DPSA. Can I request DPSA that in probably in one of your KM forums that we try to be very pragmatic about Kolwane's presentation. It's a very informative, packed presentation, but I think it needs time that we unpack it and begin to deliberate on issues, basically taking what you are saying here to say how, because I think that is where we need to shunt the way and move forward. So DPSA, I am humbly requesting you that in our next KM forum that we begin to unpack this and be pragmatic about issues, particularly where we are speaking about the central repositories, the integrated systems. I think that is my area of interest that we need to push as this forum going forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I also see, for example, there's a consciousness or a space Mr. Bandi and Mr. Chauke around mentoring and coaching. So it's not just about sharing the knowledge, but how do we walk the talk with you? And we could possibly, with the NSG, have a relationship. How do we mentor practitioners and professionals, and how do we coach so that you have a hotline I'm trying to do this. How do you just walk me through this? This is the problem. This is the pushback, for example, that I have from line managers. How do I walk through this? You know, so sometimes it's those real practical steps that we can take that makes a difference in our practice. You wanted to say something? Okay, there's a gentleman there. Thanks. Another 2 minutes and then we can break for tea, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also found the presentation very useful. I just want to follow up on what Andis was said to ask whether are there maturity assessment templates associated with the framework, because maybe that's how we can start getting traction if there are maturity assessment tools, so that each one can start measuring themselves to see where they are in terms of this framework, and that way, we can even share with our superiors where we are, what the gaps are, and what we need to do in order to mature in this journey of implementing this framework. Thank you.
Can I answer that as well?
Definitely, you can answer that.
From a maturity measurement perspective, we're looking at 7 zillion, and then probably there is also an opportunity for us to start saying that how do we integrate what we already have as an enhancement to incorporate some of the ISO standard elements.
Thank you. And then there's a comment online. Let me just get to that. There's a comment from Donay Stradle. Comment on Mr. Chalke's second presentation. Hybrid working or hot desk is a good initiative. Being able to have your corporate knowledge at the touch of a finger is key. Enterprise content management in the Western Cape has proven that it is possible to continue to do the work and deliver through a pandemic. The enablers of knowledge management are greatly important. We need to reaffirm our super user or our champions who are the ones to filter information knowledge through to all staff. I think it's issues that both speakers addressed about how do you work with your teams, those people that are the users of knowledge and also the people that have to provide you with the knowledge. Those are the enablers that she's talking about.
I get it. That's more like advice to all of us to say let's not neglect enterprise information management, because that's the base for which we can build our knowledge management capability.
Okay, good. I agree. Thank you very much. We want to just extend a token of appreciation to our two speakers. Kwena, do you just want to extend that? And then we're going to break for tea. Thank you very much, Mr. Chaka. Can we give a round of applause, please? We're seeing the hands online as well. Okay. It's just a small token to say thank you to Mr. Chalke and Ms. Sabandi. So we're going to take a break now for tea, and I'm hoping that we can get it within 10 to 15 minutes and then come back. Okay, colleagues, could we please be back by 10 to 12? It's 11:37 now. It would be nice.
And new challenges arrive every day. Challenges that weren't there yesterday, but the solutions are needed today.
We do have a problem of unemployment in South Africa, of poverty, of inequality, particularly the unemployment that is affecting our young people and women. And this school, we are hoping, can assist us with properly researched information on how best as government can we deal with these issues.
National School of Government provides public sector with the power to implement successful transformation, a capable workforce, and ultimately inspire public service that responds effectively to these challenges.
The National School of Government is mandated to train public servants throughout the entire public service, which includes the provinces and the national departments. But we are also mandated through Memorandum of Understanding to train the local government sector.
People about everything that is happening in government, both those that are coming for the first time and therefore at an entrance level, but those that are in the middle management and those that are in the senior management.
With effect from April 1, 2020, an individual may only qualify to enter the senior management service if they have successfully completed a public service senior management leadership program at the required performer level. The program aims to challenge you as a public servant to live the Batupeli principles and to instill knowledge and understanding of the intrinsic values and building blocks of our democratic state. This is also according to the aims of the National Development Plan.
The National Development Plan remains a guiding vision towards 2030 and the emancipation of South Africans from the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We need to build a capable developmental state which, together with an active citizenry, leads to a drive against these triple challenges. We also need to be part of building an ethical and professional public service. Through its suite of programs, the school trains in excess of 30,000 public servants annually.
With the right knowledge, nothing is impossible. And as NSG combines the best training facilities that allow our public sector to have access to learning and development programs.
Depending on the program, we always keep the minimum of stock material, which varies in terms of number from 200 to 1,000. We also keep 2% of material printed in Braille to accommodate learners who are visually impaired in order to promote diversity within National School of Government training programs.
The origins of the design and development of the school's curriculum is multiple. For example, we could have a request from a ministry with regard to what they need us to design. We could also have requests from particular departments who maybe have designed particular policy for implementation, and they request the school to support them through training and development to implement that policy. The school is also quite proactive, and so we make use of our training needs analysis, the analysis thereof, and we design the curriculum thereof. So, for example, when we design our financial management and supply chain management programs, we will have a very close working relationship with colleagues in National Treasury.
A training calendar was developed to assist the department that on a specific date in a specific calendar month and in a financial year, on the specific date, those departments can send their learners or delegates here at the NSG offices for them to participate in that particular training invention that they are interested in. This enables the departments to ensure that people are trained other than having to wait to have a number of 25 people per department. After the completion of each training, there is a certificate which is issued to the participants of that specific program.
In the era of the fourth industrial revolution, where technology impacts almost everything we do, we have to work together to use its opportunities in ways that benefit all public servants and public service in general. Using technology also enables the school to deliver learning in the workplace at much lower costs. Furthermore, departments don't incur extra costs associated with traditional learning and development, for example, traveling to a training venue, accommodation, catering, S&T. We use e-learning to make learning opportunities available to large numbers of public servants. When public servants enroll for an e-learning course, they take personal responsibility for their learning and development. They can learn at any time, and they can learn at a pace that feels comfortable for them. These are just some of the advantages of e-learning. To benefit, departments must create an enabling and supportive environment. At the very least, departments have to make an internet-enabled device available for e-learning purposes. This could be a desktop computer or a laptop, and our courses are also accessible on tablets and smartphones.
The office of the principal is the highest executive office in NSG. The principal, as accounting officer of the school, provides strategic vision.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10.
How to get the just the yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, yep.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Yeah, get it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1,
2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Let them listen, okay? Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1. 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 2. 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 2, 1, 2. 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Goes up, down, down. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing, testing. Coming, testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Is it still the same? Is it? Is it still the same? Testing 1, 2. And it just started all of a sudden. It just started all of a sudden. Yeah.
And then it just suddenly started. And then, colleagues at home, we are working on the sound. We are trying to get rid of the background noise, but we have 3 technicians at the moment on the job to try and get the sound right. Just also indicate to Carson in the chat when you're okay with the sound, please. We may be struggling with the network because there's a number of conferences happening here, and I think most people have logged on. So it may be that it is the. Okay, so we're ready for the second part. So colleagues, it's now 12 o'clock, 3 minutes to 12 o'clock, and we have an hour to do this whole activity in. And this is the part where we as the participants are now going to let our voices be heard, and that we are going to contribute to the conversation much more than what we've already done. So, Kulfan, can you just go back to my presentation, please?
Is it better to use this mic or the other?
This mic, it seems like this mic is a bit better, especially for colleagues at home or in your office, anybody that's online. So this part of the program, we are going to pose a couple of questions to you, and we would like you to answer those questions. And as we've already spoken a lot about the relationship between knowledge management and ICT, we're actually going to use ICT to enable us to all participate in the conversation. So the first part, if you go to the next third slide, please, Kulsum. The first topic that we are going to deal with, colleagues, is how is knowledge management advancing the achievement of the National Development Plan Vision 2030. Remember, that was an issue that we have been trying to address throughout the day and a half up to date in this particular conference. And so, as already started to come out in the conversation with Mr. Bundy and Mr. Chowki, there's a lot of wealth of experience and ideas in the room. And we would like us as a collective to draw on that collective experience and ideas. So what we are going to do is we're going to ask you to participate through Mentimeter. So if you can just put up the Mentimeter detail there, please go to your phone or your computer, and hopefully you've logged on to the Wi-Fi here, or you maybe have a little bit of mobile data that we will appreciate it. If your contract is from the 1st, then maybe it's not so long, then you will get new data. If your contract is from the 15th, then you already have received new data. So the easiest is to go, Kulsum, the pin, the Menti pin. Okay, so I want you to go to www.menti.com. Go to your Chrome browser and then type in, it will come up. The minute you say menti.com, it will come up. So you will go to, just put your cursor there, please, Kulsum. Yeah. Okay. And then in the online, Kulsum has put the link on the chat. Please click on that link and just go to topic 1 first. Okay. Then when you get there, they will ask you for a PIN. You put in a code, 17179488629. Are we there? You've put in your code. Everybody's put in their code, and then the questions will come up. And then you can just start answering the questions. So menti.com, yeah, you can, log in. The code is 17948629. People in the online, you will see the code 17948629. You have it? Okay, it will take us about 2 minutes to get to Menti. Menti.com. Go to your browser, just put in menti.com. Yeah, now put in menti.com. There at the top, it is MENTI. NTI. No, not YI. Yep. There you go. There's it. Just click on that one. Yeah. Don't stress, you'll get there. We'll wait for you. We'll just stop at topic 1. Don't go any further, just topic 1, okay? Just go www.menti.com. Okay. Oh, you want the code? There, now you've got the code. And I'm reading the code for people again, even for people online. If you can't see the code, it is 17948629. So everybody's at topic 1? Everybody? Okay, cool. Start answering the questions, please. Cool, so just check whether you need to help anybody online there quickly. Yeah, you remember they will give you instruction there. So you need to choose your priority. Just check whether it will allow you to tick everything. 179 only allows you one. Okay, so you please think a little bit about it. I'm reading the code again, 17986. Write it down quickly. 8629. You've got it? 1798629. Oh, sorry, 1794. Thanks. Just write it down, then you have it. Okay. Kulsum, can you then screen the responses that we're getting so far? There we can see the responses. Okay, everybody finishing class here? Everybody here? Face to face, online? Yes. Okay. So we have had 7 responses for the first option, 6 responses for the second option, and we've had 18 responses for the third option, and currently we're sitting on 1 response, 2 response now for the option 3. So people are still voting or choosing or making a selection. Okay, so it seems like the priority for us when we see ourselves responding to the National Development Plan, we are saying the most important thing for us to do is we need to institutionalize knowledge management to build state capacity. And I think it kind of links with the conversations that we've been having for the day and a half. Unless we institutionalize it and we move out of our elitist echelon of knowledge management where we don't even want to tell other people what knowledge management is, then we won't be able to institutionalize it and we won't be able to mainstream knowledge management. And I will plead with you from my perspective, in the use of evidence for policy making, there's no way that I can do it without working with you as a line manager. So that is, I can understand why it is so important. So we had the votes. Eventually it came in on 21 that we need to institutionalize knowledge management. It must become the norm, not the exception to the norm. Okay, having said then that, Kulsum, let's go to my presentation. The question that I want to ask, the follow-up question. So if you are saying that you want to institutionalize knowledge management, in your view, what more can knowledge management do to support the achievement of the National Development Plan? What can you do? What can I do to achieve that? If we are saying our priority now going forward and have been to institutionalize it, what is it that we need to do? Any major comments, insights, any aha moments that you can share with us that you feel is working in your department already and that we can take forward and share? Remember, we're sharing ideas now. And Makwena will do a write-up, not a report. Learning Makwena. Please share your ideas, what's working in your department so that we can have a even more.
I think this is not particular to my department, but the more we see knowledge practitioners in public service sharing practices in their departments, and the more we can showcase the best practices, the more we can show how the institutionalization of best practices, or better practices, some would go to, can support departments. Because I think there is a lot of evidence in public service where knowledge management has really delivered value, but it's not often visible on a broader platform. So we need to see FOSAD, the Forum for DGs, really seeing some of the case studies that we share at the DPSA forum for them to appreciate what is happening in departments and maybe not in their own.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? Any suggestion? We're looking for suggestions, recommendations.
Thank you. My name is Tsidi from Water and Sanitation. My point is not necessarily sharing what is happening. Maybe it's a dream for me, for the department. I think if we can improve in documenting lesson learned and using that in terms of our planning. Like, for an example, if you look at number of water projects that are collapsing without being completed, and it happens, it's occurring a number of times. I think if we would have used a lot of what happened somewhere else, and when we are planning for the other one, emphasizing on our feasibility studies, ensuring that we are not going to have a situation of having boreholes costing 2 million all over the country. It happened once, it should not repeat itself, because we have learned from that one. How can we have this? So I think if we can improve more on lesson learned and make sure that we use that for decision making, it will assist a lot.
Thank you for this forum. My name is Koleka. I'm from ESCOM. I'm so excited to be here today. But I think it's very, very important for senior management to buy in to the knowledge management. The push should be from top down as opposed from bottom up. Because if you are at the bottom trying to push it up to senior management, it won't be. So if senior management buys into it, then KM processes will be embedded into the processes, then it's easy to achieve that. Thank you.
So the question is, in fact, you are talking about the results-based M&E. Does senior management ask operational managers, what evidence have you used? And how did you test that your evidence, and that's a conversation that we had, how did you test that the evidence are credible? That's the thing. So it's different roles that each one can play. Brilliant.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Kilebuhile from Kokta. I think, adding on what Koleka is saying, I'm just thinking that maybe if senior managers, they didn't have a choice, they had knowledge management as one of their KRAs, it should be a standard for them. It shouldn't be that thing of them having to choose whether they want to include it as part of their KRAs or so it should be there on a yearly basis. So I think it would force them to try and understand what is this thing that is called KM, what is it that they need to give us the support that we need in order for us to implement it across the board. So I think that's just my view.
Very much. How does KM become part of performance management?
Okay, my comment or suggestion I would like to make is to say we spoke about mentoring and coaching. Am I okay? We already spoke about mentoring and coaching. I'm sure there is departments, and I know this is now coming from DPSA, you know, on the implementation phase. So I think mentoring and coaching would help the departments which is really struggling a lot. That's what I think.
I agree with you to that, the gentleman at the back, and then I'm coming to this lady, and that would be a last comment. Two comments.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Abulele Sukwento from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. I'd like to agree with all the colleagues with the sentiments shared. And to add to that, I would like to say, I think if we could emphasize and make compulsory document management, it must be a compulsory practice within the organization. Document management, and you can even take it to the point where you don't have to log into the document management system separately once you are in the organization. As soon as you log in to your workstation, it should be connected so that everything that you do is documented, just like how IT has systems to back up the data that you use, the information and the documents that you create, so that it becomes part of the culture of the organization. That way, it makes leadership, we are doing it.
Yes.
We're not just advocating for it, asking leadership to advocate for it. Everyone is doing it. I think we would have a great knowledge base in that sense.
Thank you, colleagues. One more comment, and then I'm going to close this. Just it's a matter of time. Oh gosh, I know you are passionate about your field. But maybe you can say it in the next question as well.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I also agree with the inputs that have been made. I just wanted to add that for knowledge management to contribute to the achievement of the NDP, can we have conversations about this? It's now been 10 years of it, you know, and you have the entire department, you even have a commission that is responsible for it. Can we see more of it in conversations? If you think about it, NDP, it's like the vision and mission of an organization. So can we see the CEO of this country and the executive of this country speak about it? And the contribution of knowledge management would be us facilitating those conversations. Thank you.
So it is about how do we revive our communities of practice even. So, I mean, these recommendations are speaking to you and to Mokoena. So, next question. Can we go back to Menti? You maybe still be in Menti. If you're not in Menti yet, then you can just log in the same time. You have a new code. Just write it down. 687985. 687985. Kulsum, just check the people online, please. Colleagues online, can you just log into, did you send a new link? Kulsum sent a new link in the chat. Can you please just check that? And it is topic 2 now. We're stopping at topic 2. The question is, how can knowledge management support the professionalization of the public service? It links directly to the presentations this morning, and you can choose one again. The voting is started, or the selection, I mustn't call it voting, the selection is started. I must choose my words correctly now. Just move, go out and or go to the next, submit and go to the next, and it will maybe give you a new one. Yeah, now you can just join another presentation. There you go. Now you put in the new code. Just to say that you can use this with your team at home if you quickly want to ask them something. and you don't want to walk to their offices, or you want to work as a team together. Or in your church, the women's group or the men's group. Do we serve tea at Sunday or not? It's a very, very valuable and handy tool to use. Okay, the selections are coming in fast and furious. At the moment, we've got 33, 34 people and going up. Thank you very much for participating in this activity. But the reality is, as knowledge management people that are advocating for the relationship between ICT and knowledge management, there's no way that you can't participate. Oh, that's great. 43 people are participating or have participated. It seems like the favored selection here would be how can knowledge management support the professionalization of the public service. It seems like most colleagues are favoring number one, by institutionalizing KM to increase innovation and productivity in the public service. It's about what your role is in terms of innovation, which is big at the moment, as well as productivity, which is a challenge at the moment. So it's a big, big responsibility that you take on for yourselves, and you are identifying that is important. Okay, the question then, and I will now also give the two previous colleagues opportunity. Colleague, Coulson, just check online if there are any questions or comments. Eh? So number two, can we go to the question there, Coulson? What role can KM professionals play in building a high standard of professional ethics? That's the important thing. Professionalization, we want to say nearly it goes hand in hand with professional ethics, because you can't be professional and not be ethical. Comment still valid?
I'm going to basically echo what Rico always echoes. KM is about taking care of an employee as he enters the institution or the organization, while the employee is there, and when the employee leaves. So it's about the entering, it's about the staying, and it's about the exiting. So that is how KM basically ensures professionalization, because we harvest and we teach so that we can prevent duplication, so that we can prevent wastage, and all of that other positive stuff.
I think you're saying a very important thing, because for me it's about how KM moves from being a support to being a strategic partner in the delivery of services. Because the issue that you've just raised, I know that a lot of colleagues are traumatized coming in and traumatized going out. All of a sudden you want to retire, not because I'm grey, I'm just saying it. And then you can't find your documents, and or your file is incomplete. How many haven't been traumatized, or your calculations have been wrong, you know? And that is KM. So KM is no longer a support function. It is a strategic function, Makwena. So it is important that you then step up and you fulfill that role. No? It's a very important point you raise.
I'm not sure. My question now is no longer relevant for this question, but what I wanted to say, I don't know whether it will be relevant, is that how we have done it in my department, we have identified key strategic activities in the branch, and then we have managed this year to put all those activities as indicators in each and every single person, not just the senior management, only as performance agreement. We speak about KM in my department at an APP level, at a business plan level of the department. So we account for it
there's accountability for it. So it has made life, I think, very easier for it that everybody has bought into it and everybody drives it in their respective units and everywhere else.
So you're taking Koleka's comment actually further and you're expanding on it, and it has very much relevance into this, because if you look at accountability, it goes hand in hand with professionalization. Okay, so can we go to the third and last Mentimeter question? So you've submitted, and then go to the next presentation, the third one, the last one, before I give over to, oh, sorry, whilst Kulsum is going to that one, I will entertain another comment.
At your peril, facilitator. To answer that question that was on the board, the additional question, I've always felt that if we can enforce knowledge sharing, that it will raise the levels of transparency. I've always thought when there were arrests made of people in public service who have managed to bypass the system, part of their sentence should be that they should give a masterclass on how they did it, so that not only can we close the gaps, but we make everyone aware that this is how we're going to catch you if you try and do it again. And then I just wanted to abuse this opportunity to ask Makwena, when I read through the professionalization framework, a word search doesn't pick up knowledge management as a term. So maybe there's something wrong with my word processor.
And he was on the team. And Makwena, you were on the team. I'm giving away your secret. That's a very important question, but also maybe just to say that when it comes to the implementation of the framework, it is about how to identify the different areas of work and look at, and this that Chauke has just presented, Mr. Chauke just presented this morning, will actually provide us with that organizer. How do you organize the profession of knowledge managers? Am I right or wrong? Okay, let's go to the last one, colleagues. This is now the question where we ask whether there should be cookies with the tea on Sunday. So which KM opportunity and threats has COVID-19 presented? Very important for us, because remember, we're going now beyond COVID. COVID was and is with us, but we're going beyond. COVID gave us an impetus, but now how do we sustain that impetus in terms of our innovation? That is the important question for us. Online, it's a new presentation. It is topic 3 now. No, there are two options. We will first do opportunities, and then we will come to threats. That's the way I saw it. Is it just one, Kulsum? Oh, sorry. Oh, you can do multiple. Okay, cool. You can do multiple the way she set it up. Oh, sorry. Let me read you the new code. You have to join the new one. 4330 online, please. Use the new code. 4330 7986. Please write it down. 7986. 4330 7986.
Colleagues, noting what Sevenzile have said, we missed the threats part, right? Let's deal with opportunities. But what we planned for was opportunities and threats. But apparently, because we're working technology, we missed the threat part. We apologize for that. Thank you.
But we'll talk about it now. And please, colleagues online, we're going to talk about the threats part now. So just get your comments collected. Anybody making a comment online? Great. Okay, we only have 27 people so far. It's coming. Please vote. About what do you see the opportunity in your department, within the system? Okay. We've got 43 people, 44 and coming and coming. Before I close it completely, I will ask Kusum just to go back and look at the others because sometimes more people have voted by the time I move to the next slide. Okay, so let's look at what you choose as your main areas of opportunities. Encourage virtual partnerships and collaboration. Brilliant. Ms. Sibandi, this is your community of practice. You've got the license now. It's about how do we come together virtually. And the nice thing, I don't have to drive, I don't have to fly, but I can participate. I can participate in a community of practice, for example, in a mentoring class of a group. I am at level 1 as Ms. Sibandi in our maturity level. So maybe in the next 3 weeks, once a week for an hour long, we have a mentoring class for all departments that have been assessed as maturity level 1. You don't have to go nowhere. You're in and you can learn. And you can learn from colleagues. Then this next one is adopt technology to support KM. I think we are moving slightly away from Metrofile and the boxes, and we are moving into a new sphere of how do we systemically manage knowledge. Okay? When I mean, my archaic connectation to knowledge management is the Metro files. I used to work at Home Affairs as well, man. So all those files get loaded up and escorted by the police to a next venue, to Metro file in, what is the place in Pretoria? Where their warehouse, but anyway, so, and we're way beyond that now. So it seems that those are our 2. We had 48 thus far. So thank you very much, colleagues. Our third question then as follow-up discussion. I'm going to speak to the threats as well. Let's discuss the threats as well. So within your organization, which other opportunities were presented by COVID to advance KM? What opportunities that you could share with us maybe that we can still learn from that you all of a sudden were faced with or given by COVID? Or just where we are at now? Anything else that you want to share? Cool.
It's nothing big, just something small that we did in our branch that, sorry, for all the branch meetings, all the documentation had to be saved on SharePoint before the meeting happens, because previously what was identified was that people would submit presentations late, or some of them would just come with their presentations and then load them on the day of the meeting. So it was done that before everybody sends through the presentations or whatever documentation that they had to present at the meeting, and then a link would be sent to all the participants of the meeting.
So I suppose that is also monetary cost was reduced of all that procedure.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Pula Saila from the Department of Agriculture. In terms of the opportunities, we have developed a knowledge management system, and we identified people who are 54 years and above who are about to exit the department. And yesterday, we actually attempted to actually invite them so that they can now, we have this a practical exercise on the system. But what happened, we were so disappointed. We expected a full house. However, actually about 41 people were invited. These are the officials, your senior examiners, your register of deeds. And these are the people who are the expertise when it comes to deeds registration. And only about 5 people showed up. It was so frustrating. And so we are hoping that since that we are trying to move from paper documents, because now, remember, initially we were, these people were expected to submit your handover reports or as well as the checklist, or the questionnaire. So, so we are hoping that in future, we will be able to bring them back in one room, because now, remember, we are still struggling in terms of our tools of trade, where people are sitting in the comfort of their home or even at their workplace, are actually unable to access the system. So these are some of the threats that we experienced. So yeah, but when it comes to the opportunities, that's what we have developed, the online system. Thanks.
So it connects to your earlier point about change management, that even if you develop the system, it's great, as you say, it is the opportunity, but have we engaged in some change management to encourage or to explain? I'm just saying, I'm not saying you didn't do it. So I'm just saying that change management also is then an important aspect of how do we change the modus operandi in our system. I'm not saying you didn't do it, I'm just highlighting it. You wanted to say, and then I'll come to you, and then we'll close this part.
Quite a lot of things that we have implemented in my branch, but the one thing that I would like to highlight is the issue of the fact that we digged into the textual and the sentimental analysis, because we realized that there is a wealth of information with regards to expanded public works program out there. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, it comes back to your integrated system. If I sit in Pretoria to write a curriculum, where do I access this information? If I can't get you on a phone, I shouldn't actually call you. I should click a button and say, how can I use that expanded public works as a case study to teach particular issues? You know, that's a very important point. It always comes back to the issues people have raised.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the colleague from agriculture, and I'm sure he's done this, but to use people's utilization of that system you've developed as a metric. And those that didn't come to the meeting and those that haven't logged on, maybe it's time to do a bit of listing and submitting.
Be encouraged first. Okay. Okay, sorry. I thought I missed a hand here.
Hello, this is Michael from Department of Human Settlements. I think one of the opportunities that COVID-19 brought to the department is the move to the virtual platforms, which came in very handy. When COVID-19 started, people did not have laptops, people did not have Microsoft Teams installed in their PCs. So it became a platform for people to communicate and be able to work from home. And another issue that was identified during the knowledge audit is the issue of not being able to send big files through emails, but Microsoft Teams has been very efficient in making sure that people can share a number of files, big files, to different number of people.
Thank you. And that's a very important point. That's also the issues that we struggled with, and it enabled us, Mr. Bandi. And then can we think about the threats so long?
Thank you. I thought I was not going to share, but for me, for DPSA, it has been a great opportunity for us to be able to administer workshops online through visual platform, and also to exploit design thinking apps in ensuring that as we capacitate people, it becomes visual, it becomes real. Even when we were doing the COP, because the first COP was a hybrid and many people were at home, but for us to be able to join the practitioners, because when COVID
came in, it was like dead because we were used to meeting on face-to-face, and that opportunity has enabled us, because of lack of capacity, to be able to record and be able to share the workshop with the people who did not attend. So people can be able to capacitate themselves at home, and we can keep it for future for capacity building.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. I consulted with Kulsa whether I must share. She said yes. One of the things that she's my boss today. One of the things that propelled the opportunities for me was, all along since I joined the NSG, I wanted to put knowledge management at a strategic level, which, colleagues, it has been a journey and a half, because you need to convince the exact why you need this animal called knowledge management on the strategic level. At last, colleagues, we managed to do that. Yeah, so, but then it needs to be strategic. Remember, most of our work, sometimes it becomes operational. So we needed to craft it in such a way that it covers everything. Then when COVID hit, we have already coined it as areas of good practice in the public sector, documented to enhance the education, training, and development interventions, with responsibility to produce what we call good practice within the public sector. Note the word within the public sector. That means my responsibility was beyond the NSG. Then COVID hit. When COVID hit, my boss, the principal, came to me and said, I want you to develop for me what we call terms of reference for hosting webinars and seminars. And once we have done that, he says to me, when we host this thing on Zoom or wherever, I need my transcripts. I need you now to start generating what you promised you will do, the good practices. So we gelled well with that. But further than that, it have built the capacity, as you have said, on the visual platform to note that. I'm paying it hard, because what we have done also was we took knowledge management externally, but we are still reviewing the internet, the new internet. If the new internet is up, colleagues, you will have seen that we have covered the case studies that were done by research, because we work well in collaboration with research. We have decided that we are going to take what we call, because one of the things that NSG does is the training needs analysis. They will come and scope your department in terms of what the needs that you have. We have decided we are going to take some of the summaries of those out, so that the public sector can have some sort of a look and feel of the NSG, what the NSG is doing. And you feel like we didn't scope your department, maybe you will raise an alarm in terms of that. But COVID have presented to us a scope of opportunities. It also relies on us as knowledge managers, because sometimes the principals comes to us with proposals and we don't take it. As you have heard yesterday, when I approached the principal last year for this conference, he gave me an opportunity. He didn't shut the door on me. He said, if I get funding for you, will you be able to gather practitioners? And I committed to that. So sometimes we need to start, colleagues, and then the others will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mokoena. Also, just to alert us to the comments, the online comments. Is it possible to make it bigger? Okay, it's actually not, I can't read it from there. So I'll have to read it from your one. It's not very legible. A comment on the opportunities. We had to carry on with service delivery. So our HOD indicated that ECM utilizing MyTrack would be the way we routed our submissions. All records compliance as per the Western Cape Archives prescripts were adhered to. Department of Premier has institutionalized a corporate knowledge index a repository for the department on ECM where all can access any document or template needed in the department. I think Donay speaks here about at the level of the department, but it is what has been raised. How do we integrate it within the entire system? Obviously, there are stuff for your department specifically, but how do you then expand it into the whole system? Lindiwe says, COVID forced the office to look at technology, skills and abilities of SMM members on how to use technology, because previously PAs were doing most of their work on computers, and they were, my backside is on the screen. I just became aware of that, sorry. Because I have to bend, sorry. I'm sorry about that, colleagues. PAs were doing most of their work on computers and they were not forced to learn. COVID revealed the lack of technology skills in SMS members of a certain age. I think it was for everybody. It wasn't just about age. I hear your point, Lindiwe, but it was about the laziness of public servants to engage with ICT and how do you use technology, because there was always a fallback. And all of a sudden with COVID, there was no fallback. You just had to get into it and get on with it. Mark Creel says, at our organization, we developed our system to enhance service delivery by means of capturing all calls, both from internal officials as well as the community, to be able to manage our knowledge electronically and to ensure that it is easy accessible as part of the history of work done in the organization. So I think for me, what it indicates, the comments here in the room as well as the comments online, that there were real initiatives in the different departments to see how do we manage it and how do we manage it better. Just for the last comment and question, colleagues, is there any question around threats? So the last question in terms of threats reads, within your organization, which other threats were presented by COVID? Which other threats were presented by COVID to advance KM? I think one colleague already mentioned the fact that we didn't have access to hardware and software for all levels.
Thank you. I think this will also be relevant to other departments. I think now the threat that COVID has revealed is I'm sure a number of organizations will have high audit query because we're working remotely and we're working on our laptops, and now approvals were done electronically, and those documents are sitting with individuals on their laptops. So there's a urgent need of automation of systems within government, because natural disasters like this are imminent. So when the next one comes, we shouldn't be found wanting, because I'm sure we'll find so many audit queries now because we won't have any evidence. We'll have to search for all those documents that were approved.
I think one of the threats is making the hybrid model work. People have tasted working from home. They know that they can. So I think that the responsibility, I think both the employer and the employee have responsibilities that they must take care of so that this work hybrid model works. For instance, when you're working from home, do you have the infrastructure? Is the chair, can you sit on the chair the whole day? Do you have this and that? But on the other side, the employer as well has responsibilities. So for me, the threat is if we don't make this work, it can ultimately impact service delivery.
Oh, okay, sorry. Hi. Yes, the threats, I think, yes, it was very exciting when we started with the new ways of working on teams, but there was no proper guidance, maybe, not no, I think there's a learning curve that we missed out on somehow. And also about working from home in our department. If you work from home, you are supposed to work on the VPN. And that means the documents that you create lands on the server and not on your own computer. So I think that should be the policy of the department. If you work from home, you must work full time on the VPN. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. We experience high crime activities occurred. We procured close to 400 laptops and they were gone. So you can imagine what, in terms of service delivery, there were pockets of inefficiency because now people couldn't even deliver. So that was the major. It was a blow for the department. So we're just hoping that we increase the security in terms of such, so that we don't experience such occurrences in future.
I'm coming back to you, sir. I'm just wanting to. So how do we take care of hardware and software and look at cybersecurity and issues like that as well?
Thank you. Yes, broadband is an issue. We discovered that when people started working from home, they're not the challenge of having them use their own data and to claim back. That was a problem. And the other thing also, when we appointed new employees, now they're starting a new job, but they're starting from home. That was a bit of a challenge. So yeah, those two elements.
One or two more comments.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Mario Sagaris, Office of the Premier Northern Cape. I think with regards to threats from our side was also with regards to broadband challenges, connectivity, not having data connecting to meetings. All of a sudden, it's this new way of working, but you don't have the resources to do your job. I would also like to go back to the presentation yesterday, but by Mr. Sibande, where he says that we should understand the enabling KM software and choose from there. I would also suggest that from the provinces that does have implemented KM solutions to share with us, because, going out and testing everything, it does take time, it increases workload. So that could also maybe assist. And I think otherwise was also increase in cost, increase in training, which is positive in a sense, but that also led to information security challenges as well, where people would share passwords, not understanding the platforms, sharing meeting codes. So there was a lot of positive aspects, but in terms of the risks that was accompanying this new form of working, it added to that. But colleagues, please, again, for those provinces that does have RM, KM, DM solutions, we talk about paper trail from, I think, Public Works. There's Alfrescos, there's SharePoints. But for those that does have implemented versions, that does the work for them, please share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think a lot has been said, there's a lot of information and suggestions and recommendations to ponder for Ms. Bandi, for Mokoena, and for the entire collective. It's about how do we revive the learning strategies again for ourselves? How do we revive the sharing of information, the sharing of how to do things, as you rightly say, the sharing of the better practices, something that works for me that you can try. And I think if anything, that we take away from this, Mokoena, is that there is a new energy within the profession around knowledge management, and the importance is as to how do we sustain that and how do we take it to the next level. Just the last comments for Fred from the online. It's from Mary Jenna. Our department experienced challenge in budget cut and a lack of tools of trade. So I think already some people have said that one of the threats was all of a sudden we didn't have all the tools. Then we bought the tools. Then the tools got lost or stolen. And so how do we then create security around that? And how do we create a budget that is enabling us to do our work? Thank you very much, colleagues. This is my part of the program. Thank you very much. I think there was a really nice participation, and I am handing over to Mokoena to then close us so we are in time as we have set out in the program.
Thank you, Denise. I think when I insisted you come and run this program, you were out of the country. And I keep on sending you emails and you're not responding to me. And I started to get frustrated. And I went to Kulsam and said, she doesn't respond. Then she said to me, no, she's somewhere in Turkey relaxing. I said, no, I'll get her when she comes back. Thank you, because I wanted you specifically to run this part. The reason for that is Denise is one of our star performer in terms of coaching and all these things. So I rely on them. But colleagues, let me take this opportunity first to thank Professor Ngaweni, my principal in absentia, for really giving KM the opportunity to gather US practitioners. If I go by names, I won't finish. My first program director yesterday used to be my boss, my friend, my mentor, and everything. So you understand the network that I've made. I've made a valuable network, and I want to thank all my program directors, and thank you, colleagues, for allowing me really and taking my calls. And when I request you to come and assist, you came through. And I don't want to be fired, so I must thank my bigger boss in absentia, Dr. Buchabelo Maja, and he knows that we had a conversation where he was telling me that he is going on leave, and I said to him, wherever you are, you can log in. This is hybrid. And he managed to log in. I would like to thank again colleagues in Knowledge Management South Africa, because when I approached them to say let's then work together, they really came through for me. And I would like to really appreciate all the speakers. You don't know, to get a speaker and to get him prepared is something else. I used to send Joanne a message when she was in the meetings. She called me later. She could see my frustration. So there were a lot of emails going through, and they committed that, look, we are coming. We are on board. We'll be there. And thank you all, colleagues. There is a say in my heart that says, we normally as project managers take accolades, because people sit here, they thank me because I'm the project manager. I take all the accolades. But let me then thank from the bottom of my heart, Knowledge Management, and my team, and Research and Marketing Intelligence colleagues who came on board. I have star performers. Some of them wanted to take this thing home, work overnight. I have star performers. But also let me advance a great thank you to our communication team at the NSG. And those guys, they worked. The emblem that you see here was, they didn't come to me and say, let's have a meeting. No, they send me products, so I have to approve. So I had to approve. But there was really a lot of engagement going through. Let me also, colleagues, thank the people who saw outside the NSG volunteers. They were wearing white t-shirt yesterday. They came through. But also, let me take this opportunity to thank our exhibitors. I have 3 exhibitors. One is Onesi. Onesi, I'll want Ms. Mbokoto to stand up. That's Ms. Mbokoto over there. And I remain standing up. She is the COO of Onesi. Onesi deals with knowledge management. Amongst the softwares they are selling, they deal with knowledge management software. So they are available when you want to find out whether they can assist you. What we have done, we have included their pamphlets also inside our packages, so you'll have their contacts. Thank you, Sisi, so much for coming through. We also had Sabinet. Sabinet is normally on our information package, but what they did for us was they then gave us the online marketing slide that we had. And lastly, I had my team from communications. And if I don't do this, I'll be fired on Monday, Kusa. We are one department that we must make money. So colleagues, there are courses, please, via our stand, there are courses that you must register. For those that are aspiring to be directors in the public sector, New Kela, you must do. All the posts now, they need you to do New Kela. It's a very nice course teaching you all about the legislation and all those things. We currently, on the other side here at the Emperor's Palace, we are launching our executive management program courses. So those who want to be execs, we are launching them on the other side. We have open courses, ethics is there to do. We have also anti-discrimination course that you colleagues must register to. And maybe let me try to chime Denise when it's still here as well. I know they are developing a course in art of facilitation that will go online very soon. So colleagues, we have various lot of courses as the NSG that we can assist you with. But further than that, let me take reflection of what transpired in the past 1.5 days. Colleagues, the most important word coming out of this conference today is collaboration and partnership. And this means we must stop working in silos. You cannot shine when you are alone. You will never shine. You never saw a wedding where a man dance alone. You must dance with your partner. And there must be, in Limpopo, there will be an entourage of people with different suits following you. So you cannot dance alone. Let's work together, colleagues. Let's really work together. I will also advocate that we, as professionals, as practitioners, let's please join the Knowledge Management South Africa. Let's do that, colleagues. Let's do that. I'm keeping myself in good books here. Okay, as I told you, part of firing me, I'm sure in the panel, Dr. Peterson will sit on it if I don't do what he's telling me to do. So one of those is we are managing a journal on African Management Development Institute. Colleagues, we encourage you to write. Kolan, if you are here, we encourage you to produce documents related to knowledge management. The NSG is running a very nice journal and is reviewed. Is reviewed. I think we will be calling for papers. We'll share with you. If you have something to do with your work that you believe that can be shared, please don't worry. And we have a research. We normally run. I'll ask Dr. Peterson to advance. I think I'll not ask. We'll talk among ourselves, Dr. Peterson, that when you do mostly we used to call them research colloquiums. We invite colleagues. Because in the research colloquiums is where we take you through the research, how you write your article, how you reference it, how you do all these things. We know some of you, since you saw referencing when you are still at school, so we apologize for that. We don't do that. The other lesson coming out of this conference, colleagues, is the lesson we learned through our case studies. I'm pleading with all of you, departmental-wise, let's share our knowledge through lesson learned, because your case study may unlock another case study somewhere, but we need to learn from you first. The other thing that comes out of this is profiling. Ms. Litswini talked of profiling in terms of the report that you just shared with us from DPSA. And out of that profiling, she alluded to the issues of KM processes. She alluded to the issues of learning in terms of technology or systems deployed with this so advanced departments. But also out of that, you take out the words coaching and mentoring. Coaching and mentoring. Let's coach and mentor one another. I know there's awards that have been developed from KMSA and DPSA, the Knowledge Management Awards. I don't know how far you are with this. We don't want to see one person taking the awards. I want to talk of another association that I belong to. There was a person who took awards 3 consecutive years. We end up asking, is this person the only star performer? You cannot do that. And that's why we call for coaching and mentoring, colleagues. I think the other thing that came out of this, Joanne will come to me now, the issue of professionalization. Believe in me, I was part of the professionalization technical team. One of the things that we avoided to do when we look into the issues of professionalization was to take into cognizance various professional bodies and list them in that document. So what will happen is once the document is being tabled in the various channels and is being approved, and then we must come on board as KMSA to claim our space and say we are available and what can we do to assist in terms of professionalizing our members, because professionalization in nature goes hand in glove with ethics. In conclusion, colleagues, I think as we are here today and going back, I must commit on the way forward. I was telling Kulsam now that the way forward is threefold for me. And the other way forward was influenced by Principal when he was here. Principal said to me, I want you, Makwena, with your colleagues, based on this conference, to produce, Dr. Peterson, a special dedicated journal on KM based on this conference. So I must go back to the presenters and see whether they cannot assist me, because last year we had case studies on service delivery. We produced one paper in relations to the journal on case studies. So principal is asking whether we can do that, Joanne. So yeah, I'm still going to knock at your doors. The second one is next year, we are not going to do a conference. No, I don't think a conference will be fine, but we will do what we call a round table of experts. So I will have to identify among the 9th province, the experts or those that have fulfilled a certain category to sit in a round table. Then we'll make it a hybrid where we communicate with them, even though it's half a day or the entire day, but they must have a program where they share their case studies, living case studies. But also I must advocate for my sisterly department before I sit down, because I know if I don't do that, my phone is going to ring and I'm going to avoid it because 70 will be calling me. DPSA is going to have a dialogue this year also. Yeah, they are still planning, but this year DPSA will have a dialogue, and we ask you colleagues also to participate. The third one from my side is, out of this, despite the case studies that the principal have requested that we do, we are going to do what we call a write-up. We normally do a nice write-up where we are going to take the entire conference and summarize it for you, whether it have met the objectives that we have planned to have. So we are going to do that. Colleagues, on that note, I think on that note, I would like to ask you, colleagues, to clap hands for yourselves, even those that are on visual. Thank you, colleagues, and please take care. But I think I must do this properly. Lunch is served on the other side. Thank you.
Vision and direction. The principal also undertakes strategic. South Africa is growing and new challenges arrive every day. Challenges that weren't there yesterday, but the solutions are needed today.
We do have a problem of unemployment in South Africa, of poverty, of inequality, particularly the unemployment that is affecting our young people and women. And this school, we are hoping, can assist us with properly researched information.